Hi grade 12s, welcome to Spark Genius Academy with Polite. So on this lesson we're going to do a past paper, and this is a sub exam. This is a sub exam. This is mathematics paper 1 2022. So we're going to answer all the question on this paper. So make sure that when you get in an exam, especially for those who are writing now in June, uh, those who are going to write your sub, make sure that you are read the instructions. So I'm just gonna dive into the questions because we have a lot of questions to answer on this lesson. I'm not sure how long the lesson will be, but let's work on them step by step. Let's start with the first question 1.1.1. So I have 1.1.1 which says we need to solve for x. Let's see what we are given here. We have this as x squared plus 2x then minus 15. So this is equal to 0 and we need to solve for x. Remember when we solve for x and the value of a is positive, the value of a is 1, we first look at the constant value, which is the value of c. So I'm just gonna open my brackets like this. So when I have my brackets, I'm going to check this will be x, this will be x. So I need the factors of 15 that when we add them or we subtract them, we get the middle term of that 2x. And the factors of 15 is just 3 and 5. So you put your both of your factors on both brackets. So now let's discuss the sign. 15 is negative. This tells you that one bracket should be positive and the other one should be negative. So how do we choose which one is positive, which one is negative? You look at the sign of the middle number, which is positive 2x. You give that positive to the bigger number. So this bracket will be positive and the other bracket will be negative. Remember, this is equal to 0. Therefore, from there we can solve and say x plus 5 is equal to 0, or we can say x minus 2 is equal to 0. So now what is x this side? X is just minus 5, and on the other side x will be positive 2. And that's it for this question. Then when you have it like this, you're going to get the marks. So since we are preparing for sub and also for final exam, for those who will be watching the lesson and they will be preparing for final, this lesson will be helpful. So let's discuss how they mark this problem. How are these marks allocated? So they're going to give you 1 mark for the factor. So make sure that you have your factors right. You get this step right, you're going to get 1 mark, and there's 1 mark for x is equal to minus 5, and there's 1 mark for x is equals to, we said this is 3, so this will be 3. For x it's equals to 3. Please, if you already wrote 2 on your notes, please fix that. This is x minus 3 because we are working on 15. Okay, so let's move on the next question. Let's move on the next one, which is 1.1.2. I don't want to talk much about this one. So when you have this type of a question and you see the statement, leave your answer to correct to 2 decimal place. Just know that the examiner is telling you that this question, there's no way that you can factorize this. You need to use what? A quadratic equation. Make sure that you write your quadratic equation correctly. Ne? Get your quadratic equation from the formula sheet. It says x is equals to minus b plus or minus the root of b squared minus 4ac. Right. So now everything here is divided by 2a. What I need you to do is to substitute your values correctly. Remember, this is in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. So you can see what is the value of a, And what is the value of c? What is the value of a? Is 5, which is the coefficient of x squared, and the value of b will be that minus 1, which is the coefficient of x, and the value of c is the constant, which is just negative 9. So you take these values, you go to your quadratic equation, and you substitute everything correctly. So this will be minus, where there's b, remember we said this is minus 1. So this is plus or minus the root of b, it's minus 1, which is squared, minus 4 into a. What is the value of a? It's 5. Right. So we multiply this by c, which is negative 9. Let me divide by 2 into 5. Right. So you can go straight, punch that on the calculator, or you can just keep on working this and say this is x, it's equals to positive 1 plus or minus, then find whatever that you get inside the bracket, which is 1 squared, it's 1, minus 1 squared, it's 1, 4 times 5 times 9, the negative will cancel, so we're going to have the root of 18 inside. So this will be root of 18, 1, 18, 1, then divide everything by 2 times 5, that's 10. When you punch this on the calculator, we get 0. Okay, I didn't punch it correctly. Let me fix this on my calculator. So this is 1 plus the root 18 over 10. So this side I got 1.45, or the value of x, it equals to, let me change the sign on my calculator. Please also try to practice how to punch this on your calculator. Or x is equals to minus 1.5, 1.25. And that's it for this question. This is to the two decimal place. When you have it like this, this is how you're going to get your 3 marks. So they'll give you a mark for the substitution correctly into the quadratic equation. So make sure that you substitute everything correctly. Then the other 2 marks go to your final answers. I hope everyone is happy on that. We are still home mapping. Yeah, we are still like taking it step by step. We haven't done much, so these are just easy questions, right? But on this one, why do we keep on explaining this question? So that we help you understand the mistakes that most of the learners make, right? So the most of the learners, they lose this 1 mark here for the substitution on the quadratic equation. Please make sure that you fix that mistake. Okay, let's keep going. 1.1.3. 1.1.3, we have x squared, which is less than what? This is less than or equals to 3x. So when you have it like this, make sure that you bring everything on the left hand side. So you can write this as x squared minus 3x less than or equals to 0. So can you see that you have a common factor of x? Take out that common factor, you'll be left with x minus 3 less than or equals to 0. So now please, I know most of the learners, when they get to this step, they say x is equal to 0 or x is equal to minus 3. Please don't write equal sign while we are working with inequalities. Instead, say CV, critical values. Then when you solve this using the zero product property, we know that our critical values is 0 and 3. So you just have to solve. So what I'm trying to say is that I won't recommend that you guys use inequalities. Remember, we are talking about the x into x minus 3. It's equal to 0. So this thing, we can say this is x equals to 0, or x it's equal to 3. So only write this as your inequalities, as your CV, critical values. Okay, so when you have it like that, let's work on this one. We are not, we don't have the solution yet, so we're going to check the value of a on this equation. It's positive, so the value of a is 1, and we can see that it's positive. You're going to write down your number line. So you write the first small number first, then the 3 will come this side. So since it's positive, this will be concave up. This is how your graph will look like. So now I need you to choose any number between 0 and 3. We can choose 2. We can choose 1. Let me choose the smallest one. Then go into this equation here. Go to that equation where there's x. Let's substitute that 1 and see what we get. So this will be 1 squared minus 3 into 1. So it's 1 minus 3, which is negative. So our solution between is negative. Even if you use 2, you will still get negative. Guys, I'm trying by all means to move slow. And I'm recording the lesson at now it's 5 minutes to 2. Right, for sure you can even hear my voice that this guy wants to sleep. So I will try by all means to go slow so that you can collect all the information that you need. Né? So now look at this. The other side will be positive. If the middle one is positive, just know that the other side will be positive. So now we are looking for the solution where x is less than 0. Less than 0 means negative, so it will be from this point going in that side, and from this point going in that side. So you know how you write your solution. You're going to say x must be less than or equals to that 3, and x must be greater or equal to that 0. And this is your solution, ladies and gents. So when you have it like this, you're going to collect the marks. So let's see how they're going to allocate those marks. So most of the time they need to see the standard form. This part here, there's a mark for that. For moving the 3x to the other, easy. Just take the 3x to the other side, put it that side, and then you get your mark. Simple. How can you lose that mark? Moving it to the left hand side. No. We can't donate that mark. We need that one. Eh? And then factors, you take out x as a common factor, you have another mark. Then now this was 4 marks. Ne? This was 4 marks. Then you're going to get 2 marks for the final answer. Guys, I hope you are having fun so far. Ne? Let's work on the next question, which is 1.2. So I see that we are running out of space. So I'm just gonna take the 1.2 to the blackboard. So look at what we are given on 1.2. Let's look at what we are given. We are given a plus 64 over a, it's equals to 16. Let's write this on our blackboard. So what are we given? We are given that a plus 64 over a, this is equals to 16. And let's go back and see what is the question saying. Okay, so they say solve for a for 3 marks. Let's solve for the value of a. So to solve for the value of a, and this is what I'm given, a plus 64 over a, it's equals to 16. The first thing that I'm going to do is to remove the fraction. How can I remove the fraction? Look at this a on my denominator. I can multiply everything by that a. So this will be a into a. I multiply every term by that a. So this will be a. I need to multiply the 16 over a, and then let's equate this to 16, which we need to multiply by a. What you do on the left hand side, you also do on the right hand side. So this will give me a squared. then the a this side cancel. I'll have this as plus 16, then this is equated to 16a. So let's move the 16 to the other side. So this will be a squared minus 16a plus 16, it's equal to 0. So now when you have it like this, we can just work this thing out. But now where is the 16 coming from? Why do we have two of the 16s? You see, I don't think it's the best. I don't think recording the lesson at this time is the best, because even the mind is tired. But we'll keep on fixing those mistakes. Né? Don't worry, we'll keep on fixing those mistakes. So remember, this is 64, not 16. So this will be 64. I'll keep on working on those mistakes. This is 64, and then so this will be 64. Let me quickly fix that. This is 64, or maybe we should just start everything from scratch. Né? Yeah, please guys, please don't lose interest. Let's keep on, sit on the lesson and see how much you can learn from the lesson. Okay, let's work this thing again. So if there's someone who did not understand what we did, now is the chance. Né? We're going to say a, we're going to multiply that a by a. We multiply every term. So we're going to take the 64 over a. We need to also multiply that by a, then equate this to 16. So this side we have a squared plus the a cancels, we left with 64, and then we also have to multiply that guy by a, then this will be 16a. So now what do we have so far? This will be a squared. The 16a comes this side to be negative 16a, then we add 64, then equate this to 0. So when it's like this, we can factorize this, because the 64 is negative and we're looking for the factors of 64 that when you add or subtract them, they give us 16, and those factors is just 8 and 8. 8 times 8 is 64. So since 64 is positive, both of these should be negative. So therefore this tells you that we can write this as a minus 8 squared. So this can be written as a inside the bracket minus 8 squared is equals to 0. Then when you solve for this, you can square both sides and say a minus 8 is equal to 0. Therefore the value of a is just 8, and that's it. You've managed to solve the value of a. Let's see what do we have on the next one. Okay, so on the next one they say hence solve for x. So hence means that use whatever that you got on the previous question, use that information to work on this problem. So they want us to solve for x, and what are we given? We are given 2 to the power x plus 2 to the power 6 minus x is equals to 16. Okay, let's quickly work on that. Alright, so what we have so far, we have this was 1.2.1. So this was 1.2.1. Now we need to work on 1.2.2. So 1.2.2, they say we have 2 to the power x, then this is plus 2 to the power 6 minus x, and this is equals to 16. Okay, so now I'm trying to understand why they said hence, because now when I look at this question, for the fact that they said hence, this tells us that we're going to have something in common with that one. But let's analyze the question first. I have 16, I have 16. So now I have one term here, I have one term here, then I have this term here that I can change as a fraction. I'm going to explain how I see that we can change that as a fraction. Okay, so now what I'm trying to say is that we can write this as 2 to the power x. Let's apply the laws of exponents. Remember, when the base are the same, we add the exponent. So I'm going to reverse that law and break this thing into 2 to the power x multiplied by 2 to the power negative x. This is equal to 16. So when I have it like this tells me that this equation, whatever that has a positive exponent, will remain on top. Then whatever that has a negative exponent comes on bottom, but without the negative. The exponent will be positive. Then this is equal to 16. So now look at this. This is 2 to the power x plus, what is 2 to the power 6? That's 64. So now I understand why they said hence. Né? So that is 2 to the power x plus 64 over 2 to the power x, and this is equal to 16. So now I understand why they said hence solve for what. Let me go back. Hence, what was the question? Hence solve for x. Okay, so let's look at how these two equations are related. Now, look at this. Please pay attention on this. If we look at the question, we have a here and 2x, 2 to the power x, and everything is divided by a, and also this one is divided by 2 to the power x. So this tells you that we can replace what? The 2 to the power x by a, and then these two equations will be the same. So we can use this guy. We know that 2 to the power x is the same as a. So we can, instead of saying from this equation, instead of saying a is equal to 8, we can say 2 to the power x is equal to 8. Then we can solve for x. That's why they said hence. So from 1.2.1, we can change the 8 into the prime of its vectors and write this as 2 to the power 3. The base are the same. If the base are the same, this tells you that the exponents are equal. Okay, so the base are equal, therefore the exponents are equal. So the value of x for this problem is positive 3. Right, I hope you guys are happy on how we solve that one. Let's see what we have on the next problem. So on the next one, it has to do with simultaneous. Oh, we also have this one. Let's work on this one first. Yeah? So what we are given is 2 to the power 1002 plus 2 to the power 1006. Everything is divided by 17 2 to the power 998. So you know what I need you to do? Pause the lesson, try to work this on your own. Let's see if we get the same answer. Let's see if you'll be able to collect that 4 marks. Okay, let's work on this problem. Let's put it on our board. It's 1002 1006. Let's put this on the board. Okay, so we have this as the root, everything inside the square root, which is 2 to the power 1002. This is added to 2 to the power 1006, and everything is divided by 17, which is multiplied by 2 to the power 998. So this is what we have, right? Let's just quickly confirm that. Right, I'm sorry for going this side and the other side. This is what we'll be doing all the lesson. So now when we look at this, okay, I can see that we've managed to copy everything correctly, and they say without using a calculator, calculate the value of that. Let's work on it now. Okay, so now I need to create something like a common factor. So I'm going to first analyze what I have on top on my numerators. So now my aim is to make sure that this is base 2, this is base 2. So I know that I can take out the common factor. Then I'm going to look at the smallest exponent, which is 1002. So this tells me that I can write this equation as 2 to the power 1002 multiplied by, I need to change that to have the 1002. So we know that if we take 1006, we can write this as 1002 plus, we need to add 4. So this guy will give us that. So I'm just gonna write it as 2 to the power okay, I'm just gonna write this as 2 to the power what? 2 to the power 102, then we add 4. Everything is divided by 17 multiplied by 2 to the power 998. So now what I'm going to do on top is to take out the 2 to the power 1002 out as a common factor. So let's see what we get if we take it out as a common factor. I'll have 2 to the power 1002. Then remember this, I'm just gonna jump a step for now, guys. I'm very sorry about that, and I hope we're going to be on the same step. So now this can be written in that form. Remember, when the base are the same, we can add the exponent. So I'm going to reverse the law. So now this will be plus, this is plus 2 to the power 1002 multiplied by 2 to the power 4. I was going to jump a step, but I'm not sure if it's a good idea. So let's just write everything on the board. Okay, so now we can quickly take out the common factor. Eh? Now we can work out and take out the common factor. So when I take out the common factor, I'm going to say this is, let's have the 2 to the power 100 out as a common factor. Then inside the bracket, where there's that 2 to the power 1002, you substitute 1. So this will be 1 plus 1 times 2 to the power 4. Close the bracket, everything is divided by 17 multiplied by 2 to the power 998. So look at this. I'm going to check what I have. The base are the same. This base is the same as that one. So I can work this thing out and take the one on top. When the base are the same, what do we do to the exponent? We subtract the exponent. I hope you guys still remember that. So now we can write this in the form of saying what we have on top, which is 2 to the power 1002. We subtract what we have on bottom, which is 998. So this will be multiplied by what we have inside the bracket is going to be 1 plus 2 to the power 4, which is 17. So I'm going to have this as 17. So when I work out this bracket, I get 17, and this is divided by 17 because we remove this on bottom left. I hope everyone is happy about that. Let's continue. So the top part, if I say 1002 minus 998, that gives us 4. So this will be 2 to the power 4 multiplied by 17 over 17. So the 17 will cancel, and I'm left with the root of 2 to the power 4. What is the root of 2 to the power 4? Is just 16 or 16. So now I know that this will be the root of 16, which is just 4. So 4 is our final answer. You just have to take this step by step. Right, I hope everyone is happy on that, guys. I'm trying here. So now let's look at what we have on the next question. Look at this. Solve for x and y, simultaneous equations. Okay, so now on simultaneous equation, we're going to first take this guy here, and I'm going to call that my equation 1. So this is 2x minus y is equals to 2. Let's call that equation 1. So it's going to be, my equation 1 is 2x minus y, and this is equals to 2. Let's call this equation 1. And then now what do we have on equation 2? Equation 2 is 1 over x minus 3y is equals to 1. So this is 1 over x, we minus 3y, and this is equals to 1. Let's call this equation 2. So now we're going to look at these two equations. Which one is more complicated? And which one is more easy to work with? So I think equation 1 is easy. Then we're going to bring it down and work on that equation 1. So let's bring the equation 1 down here, which is 2x minus y is equals to 2. We need to make what? We need to make one variable subject of the formula. I'm just going to take the y to the other side to be positive, and then the 2 to the other side to be negative. So please don't be confused. The y went this side to be positive y, and the 2 went to the other side to be negative. So I'm going to call this equation 3. Right, so now that we have equation 3, we know what is y, meaning that on equation 2 we can sub in equation 3 into equation 2. So on equation 2, where there's y, we need to put the 2x minus 2. So this equation 2 will be 1 over x minus 3 inside the bracket. This is y. I put 2x minus 2. Then let's equate this to 1. Okay, so now the next step is to multiply out the bracket with that 3. So I'll have this as 1 over x. It's equals to minus 3 times 2x, which will give us negative 6x. So this will be minus 6x. Then remember, when you multiply out the bracket, we multiply each term with the minus 3. So each term inside the bracket will be multiplied by minus 3. I hope we're still on the same page on that. So this will be minus 6x plus 6. And this is equals to 1. So I'm just going to bring the 1 this side to be negative 1. And let's equate this to 0. Right. Okay. So now this is what I have so far. I have this as 1 over x minus 6x, and this is 6 minus 1. What do you get when you say 6 minus 1? We get 5. So this will be plus 5. This is equals to 0. Guys, I feel like my petrol, like feel like a petrol, like the energy is going. Let's try to bring back the energy. Where are more complicated questions, man? Hey, this simultaneous equation is making me sleep. Remember, I told you guys the time that I'm recording this lesson. Now it's 18 past 2 a.m. So now let's remove that fraction. We don't need the 1 over x. Né? We need to multiply everything by x. So this will be x. We need to multiply everything by x. Just to save time, let me just multiply on this one. So this will be x. Then we need to multiply that by x. We need to multiply the 5 by x, the 0 by x. Let's quickly work on that. So the x This side cancel, this x and that cancel, we're left with 1 minus 6x squared plus 5x, and this is equal to 0. Then when it's like this, we just have to arrange the equation in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. Let's quickly work on that. So this will be minus 6x squared plus 5x plus 1, it's equal to 0. So the 6 is negative. We need to divide everything by that negative, or you can just change the sign of every term. I hope this makes sense. So now we can factorize this. I'm going to put my 6x this side, the x on the other side, and we know that the factors of 1 is just 1 and 1. Then 1 is negative, 1 should be positive, and the other one should be negative. Let me quickly help you how to decide which bracket is positive and which one is negative. Look at this. 6 times that is going to give me 6x, right? So since it gives us 6x, we need to get minus 5x. So this tells you that this bracket, this side, should be negative, so that when we multiply the 6x with 1, if it's negative, we're going to get minus 6x, so that we can add what? We can add that x to get the minus 5x. I hope that makes sense. No? That's how you factorize a quadratic equation. Right, so this is equated to 0. Then I'm going to have 6x plus 1 is equal to 0, or we're going to say x minus 1 is equal to 0. So this side I'll have x to be minus 1 over 6, or x is 1. Right, so we have the values of x. We need to find the corresponding y values. So to find the corresponding y values, we're going to use equation 3, because already we know that y is equals to 2x minus 2. So I'm just going to write this down and say my y, it's equal to 2x minus 2, and then let's substitute the values. Let's substitute. So this is equals to y will be 2 into the bracket, let's start with this one, minus 1 over 6 minus 2. You can punch your calculator and find your answer. So this will be minus 7 over 3, and now we need to substitute for x, it's equals to 1. So this will be y is equal to 2, where there's x, this time I put minus 1. I put 1. So 2 times 1 is 2, and minus 2, so the value of y is 0. Then you are done solving the simultaneous equation. And that's it for this question 1. This was the last question of question 1. So let's continue working on question 2. Right. So on question 2, I don't think we should be having problems, because this is an easy question. Look at this. You are given that the first term of an arithmetic sequence is minus 1. So what is the examiner telling you? The examiner is saying that the value of a is minus 1, and you are given the 7th term. So t number 7, let's say, is 35. Right. So I think you can agree with me on when I say that the T7, we know that the T7 is what? The T7 is A plus 6D. So we can, if we say T7 is equals to 35, we can substitute the term number 37 as A plus 6D. If I say T20, T20 is A plus the number before 20 is 19, so this will be 19D. If I say T100, it's going to be A plus the number before 100, 99D. Right. So this is something that you don't have to cram, but understand, you know. So this is a plus 6d is equals to 35. So for sure you guys are asking yourself, why am I doing this? So now this is my equation 1, and now this is my equation 2. So I know that a is minus 1, meaning that on that equation where there's a, we can substitute 1. So we can write this as where there's a, it's minus 1 plus 6d, it's equals to 35. Because they said find the common difference. Find d. The common difference is d. We just have to solve for d. Please make sure that you understand how we got t7 is equals to 35 as a plus 6d is equals to 35. Where there's a, I put the value of a, which is the first term. Now I need to solve for d. So 6d, it's equals to the minus 1 will go to the other side to be positive. So we're going to have 36 this side. Divide both sides by 6. Therefore, what is d? d is 36. 6 goes into 36 how many times? 6 times. And that's the constant difference. That's the constant difference. So please give me a second, guys. Okay, let's continue with the lesson. So now they say that the number of terms in the sequence, if the first term, they want us to determine the number of terms, right? The number of terms, if the last term of the sequence is 373. When they say the last term, just know that this is your Tn. So first thing first, we need to find the general term of the sequence. And how do we find the general term? So I'm just going to work this thing out and say this is 2.1.2. So 2.1.2, first thing first, we need Tn, which will be in the form of a plus into n minus 1 times d. Why? Because this is arithmetic sequence. So the general term for arithmetic sequence is Tn is equals to a plus into n minus 1 times d. So let's substitute, because already we know what is Tn. It's given as 473. So this will be 473. Let's equate this to the value of a. So if you still remember, the value of a was given as minus 1. So this will be minus 1 plus, we are calculating n, the number of terms. So this will be n minus 1 times d, and we just calculated d to be 6. So let's multiply out the bracket with that 6. So this will be 473 is equals to minus 1 plus 6n minus 6. So just multiply the bracket by what? Just multiply the bracket by that 6. I'm very sorry, guys, about the space. So I'm just gonna save time and say minus 1 minus 6 is minus 7. Then since this is minus 7, we're going to bring the minus 7 this side, and we're going to have this as 473. We're going to add 7, which gives us 80. So this will be 480 is equals to 6, and divide both sides by 6. Right, let me quickly confirm if what is 480 divided by 6. Okay, I have 80 on my side, so n is equals to 80. I hope you guys are happy with how we calculated the number of terms. So n is equals to 80. So first thing first, we're given the last term of the sequence, which is Tn. We need to first find the general term of the sequence, then equate that general term of the sequence to 473. Okay, so 2.1.3, they want us to find the sum of the first 40 terms. So that's 2.1.3. Okay, the sum of the first 40 terms. So this is going to be Sn. Remember, this is quadratic equation, quadratic pattern. I'm sorry, guys. This is arithmetic, and the sum for arithmetic is n over 2 into 2a plus into n minus 1 times d. So this is the formula of the sum for arithmetic. So I'm just going to rewrite the formula down here so that we can substitute. So this will be 2a plus into n minus 1 times d. So if you substitute on this equation, remember we are using that what we already have, the value of a and the value of d. So let's substitute those on the equation. So the sum of n here is 40. So this will be the sum of 40, meaning that where there's n we put 40. This is divided by 2 into 2. The value of a was given as minus 1 plus n is 40 minus 1 times d, which is 6. So you just have to punch that on the calculator and you'll find the sum of the 40 terms. Let me quickly put this on the calculator also. So this is 40 divided by 2 into 2 times minus 1 plus 40 minus 1 times 6. So the sum of 40 terms is 4,640. And that's it for this question. Okay, so on the next one, this is what we have. We are given a quadratic pattern. So I'm going to take this quadratic pattern to the other side so that we can enjoy our pattern, because I think we're going to have so much fun solving this problem. So this is quadratic pattern. Let's rewrite this on the blackboard and say the quadratic pattern is given as, let's look at this, it's given as 75, we have 53 and 35 and 21. So this is the quadratic pattern that is given. Let's answer the following question. Write down the fifth term of the pattern. They want us to find term number 5. So let's quickly work on that. First thing first, we need to find the difference between these numbers. That's the first thing. You find your first difference. So we're going to say 53 minus 75. So 53 is a small number and we are minusing a big number. This gives us negative 22. Then we say 35 minus 53. This gives us negative 18. Then 21 we minus 35 and this gives us negative 14. Okay, so now this was the first difference. We need to find the second difference. This 2 is going to be, please make sure that when you minus these numbers you don't make mistakes. Now this is how it should look like. Don't worry guys, we're going to use all the markers. I like to work with different markers. We're going to use all the markers. By the end of the lesson will be, now we're using pink, né? By end of the lesson maybe we'll be using yellow. So now this will be minus 18 minus into minus 22. So minus 18 minus into minus 22 is the same as saying 18 plus 22, which is equals to, this will give us the constant difference of 4. So if the constant difference is 4, this tells us that this is 4 here and this is 4 there. So now let's talk about how we find term number 15. It's easy. You just have to say, I know that this is 4, whatever that I'm going to subtract from that part, I'm going to take that and subtract minus 14 to get 4. So to do this, we can add 4 to that minus 14 to find the next term. So when you add 4 to minus 14, you get this as minus 10. Then now you need to add minus 10 to that 21 to find the term. Term number, they were requesting for term number 15. So to the fifth term, not 15, the fifth term. So to find the fifth term, this will be minus 21. Then we add that negative 10. So when you add that negative 10, we get 11. So term number 5 is 11. We can conclude and say T11, term number 5 is equals to 11. Term number 5 is equals to 11. Okay, so now, and that's it for that question. That was an easy one, Magna. So the next one, determine the nth term of the pattern. They want us to find the general term of the pattern, which is in the form of an squared plus bn plus c. So what is the value of a? How do we find the value of a? To find the value of a, we use the formula 2a is equals to, we equate that to the constant difference, which is 4. Divide both sides by 2. Therefore, you have your value of a as 2. Right. This is the value of a. Now let's work on the value of c. Nope. Let's start with b. We're going to use the formula that says 3a plus b. It's equals to the first term of the first difference. So we're going to equate this to negative 22. Then already we know what is a is. A is 2. Let's isolate b. Then when we isolate b, this will be 6 plus b. It's equal to negative 22. Then b is equal to the 6 goes to the other side to be negative. So this will give us negative 28. So that's the value of b. Now that we have the value of b, we need to find the value of c using the formula a plus b plus c. It's equal to the first term of the sequence. We equate this to 75. But remember, we know what is a and we know what is the value of b. So a is 2. Then we subtract the value of b, which is 28, plus c is equal to 75. So this is negative 26 plus c, which is 75. Then let's solve for c. So the 26 goes to the other side to be positive, and this will give us c to be 75 plus 26, which is 101. And this is the value of c. So therefore, what will be the Tn of the sequence? Tn is equals to the value of a is 2. So this will be 2n squared. The value of b, we just calculated that to be minus 28. Then this is n. The value of c is 101. We're going to add 101. Therefore, this is your general term. I hope everyone is happy on how we got that general term. Okay. So now, this is for marks. They say determine the maximum value. Okay, they want the maximum value of the following pattern. What I need you to know is that this pattern, it comes from that sequence, that quadratic pattern, the 75, the 53, the 35, and the 21. I'm going to explain. Okay, so now let's look at this 2.2.3. Remember, now we have the general term of the sequence, and we calculated the general term to be Tn is equals to 2n squared 2n squared, and that was minus 28n, then plus 101. So now let's calculate the maximum value of the following pattern. Look at the pattern that is given. So we have I'm just gonna use this pattern. Let us take everything to the other side. We have minus 15, or maybe it's best if we work it out here. Let's try and work this thing out here. So now we need to determine the maximum value. The first thing that I need you to do, remember this pattern is from that sequence. So now I'm going to divide everything by 5. So now the pattern will be, look at that 75, it's minus 75, divide that by 5. So when you divide that by 5, you're going to get that minus 15. And then let's take the 53. So the 53 already is divided by 5. So I'm just going to leave it at minus 53 over 5. And then look at the minus 7. We know that 35 divided by 5 is 7. So this will be negative 35. Because of that negative there, we divide that by 5. So I'm just trying to divide everything here. 21, it's already divided by what? By minus 5. So now look at this. What is going on this pattern? So this is we just take this pattern, we change the sign of each and every pattern, then we divide by 5 to create this pattern. I hope this makes sense. So now I think everyone can see that we have a common factor here, which is minus 1 over 5. I can just take it out as a common factor. Inside the bracket, I'll have that given pattern, which is 75, 53, 35, and 21. So I think you guys now understand what is going on here. Now remember, the pattern inside inside that what is this? The pattern inside the big bracket, we already know the general term of that. Remember the general term of this, Tn was what? Tn of that, we just calculated this to be 2n minus 28n plus 101. So this tells us that inside the bracket we can, let's work this thing out here. Inside the bracket we can write this as negative, then this times that Tn. So it's going to be negative. I'm just gonna change everything inside the on my number pattern, the signs, because we are multiplying that by, remember, everything here it's over 1. Everything there it's over 1. So I'm going to row multiply. I hope this makes sense, guys, please. Or maybe we should just write it like this. I'm saying that this will be minus 1 over 5. It's equals to 75, 53, 35, 21 over 1. Right, so we know that this is minus 1 over 5. It's equals to, not equal sign, guys. Let's put the bracket there, not the equal sign. Right, I'm very sorry that we're taking this to be long. So now this is the same as that 2n squared minus 28 plus 28n plus 101. Right, this is over 1. Let's row multiply and see what we get. This times this, we multiply that times that. So the negative will change the sign of every term in that, which becomes minus 2n squared plus 28n plus, okay, minus 101. This is divided by 5. We're only interested in what? We're only interested in the value of b. So ladies and gents, remember the maximum value, it's like saying this is a quadratic pattern, and if this is a quadratic pattern, this will be concave what? This will be concave down because of the value of what? The value of that 2 is negative, as you can see there. So now we are looking for this maximum value, which is the x coordinate of the turning point. And how do we find the x coordinate of the turning point? We use the formula x is equals to minus b over 2a. So now if we say x is equals to minus b over 2a, we can substitute it there, because remember this is bn plus c and this is an squared. So what is the value of b? Is just 28, so this will be negative 28, everything divided by, now the value of a, what is the value of a in this sequence? So now it's minus b over 2a. This will be, what do we get if we sub in the value of a? Okay, so now the value of a in this sequence, I feel like, okay, the value of a is going to be 2 into, what is a? A is negative 2. Right. So now, therefore, what is the x coordinate of the TP? Because we are looking for the maximum value, we are looking for the y value. Already we know that if we say minus 28 over minus 4, it's 7. So now we can see that, in fact, let's not use x. I think it's best if we say n, so that this can make sense. Let's say this is n. So this will be n. It equals to n. It's equals to 7. How? We are having so much fun. I think now this is starting to make sense. So n is 7. So the n value here is 7. We need the corresponding y value. How can we find the corresponding y value? We can substitute that 7 on the original, on the equation to find what? We can substitute it on the equation to find the value of y, which is the maximum value. Let's quickly work on that. So we're going to say this is equals to, remember we used the numerator here. We used what? We used this numerator there to find the n. So now to find the corresponding y value, we need to use everything. So the corresponding y value will be minus 2 into 7 squared plus 28 into 7 minus 101. Divide everything by that 5. Right. So now when you substitute n there, we're going to get that the corresponding y value, which is t7. T7 is equals to what? T7, it will be minus 3 over 5. So the minus 3 over 5 is your maximum value. So the maximum value of the new pattern is minus 3 over 5. The maximum value of new pattern, this is equals to minus 3 over 5. Guys, there are many methods that we can use to work out this problem. There are many methods that we can use. Someone can prefer to find the derivative and then find n, after finding n, substitute n on the original equation. It's fine, you can do that. Let's move to the next question, which is question 3. Now, so let's see what we have on this question 3. So question 3, they say consider the following geometric sequence. Okay, we can see the sequence, calculate the 10th term of the sequence. How can we calculate the 10th term if we don't know what is the general term? So first thing first, make sure that you know the general term of the sequence. So I'm just gonna write down and say my Tn is equals to the set. This is geometric, so the general term is in the form of AR n minus 1. The value of A is 1024. So my Tn will be equals to 1024. then I need to substitute the value of R. Let's quickly find R. Remember, R is equals to T2 divided by T1. So this is my T1, this is my T2. So T2 is equals to 256. Divide that by 1024. So please put that on the calculator. Therefore, we find the value of R to be just 1/4. So this tells me that I'm going to multiply this. I'm going to put the 1/4 inside the bracket, close, then to the power n minus 1. So now that you have, please make sure that these steps you show them on the calculator on your answer sheet. So now that we have the general term, it's now it's very safe for us to find T10, meaning that on the general term where there's n, we need to substitute 10. This will give us 1024. Inside the bracket, I have this as 1/4 to the power. What is the value of n? We said it's 10 minus 1. So when we punch this on the calculator, we should definitely get our T10. So let's quickly work on that. So 1024 into 1/4 to the power 25 to the power 10 minus 1. So the answer is 1/256. So this tells you that this guy is term number 11. And you'll definitely get your full marks. So now they will give you a mark for the correct substitution in the formula, because remember you calculated, you find A, you find R, there's a mark for that, and there's a mark for the final answer. Okay, let's look at what we have on this next question. So this question, look at this. They want us to find the sum of 8 terms of this sequence. So we don't have much space to work on this side. We don't have much space. Let's take this to the other side. So this is 3.1.2. Let's go work on it on the other side. Okay, so now let's say we are given the sum. We need to find the sum of 8 terms, and then where P is equals to 0 of 256 inside 4 to the power 1 minus P, then close the bracket. So let's first find the sequence. It's very important that we first find the sequence. To find term number 1, where there's P, we start substituting 0, because P is equal to 0. It starts at P is equal to 0. Then this will be, this will be 256 inside the bracket, 4 to the power 1 minus 0. So this is just 256 times 4, because this is 4 to the power 1. Then this will give us the first term to be 1024. Then let's find T2. Remember we started at 0. So this tells you that to find T2, we're going to substitute what? We're going to substitute where there's P, we're going to put 2. So this will be 1 minus 2. So what do you get inside the bracket? Or you can just punch this on the calculator. This will be 256, and then what do we have? Oh guys, this is 1 minus, we started at 0. Let me fix this now, so that you guys can understand what's going on. We substituted 0, so let me write it in this way so that you don't make the same mistake that I made now by substituting my P value as 2. So I'm going to say for P is equals to 0, this will give me term 1. So this is equals to 256 into 4 to the power 1 minus 0. And what is this giving us? We said 1024. And then for p, it's equals to, from 0 we go to 1. This will give me T2. So the mistake that I made is to substitute my p as 2, because I'm looking at this T2. In fact, we should substitute p is equals to 1 instead. Né? So this will be 256 inside the bracket 4 to the power 1 minus 1. So any number to the power 0 is 1. So this tells us that the sequence here is 2, 5, 6. You can verify by punching this on the calculator. Né? You can verify by punching this on the calculator. So for p is equal to 2, we get T3, which is equals to, what is T3? 256. Inside the bracket, we have 4, 1 minus 2. So 1 minus 2 is going to be 1 over negative 1, which is 1 over 4. So we take the 256, we divide it by 4, which gives us 64. So term number 3 is 64. So let's arrange the equation that we currently have. Né? So my equation, the first term is 1024. Then remember, this is the sum. We added this to 256. We added this to 64. Then, and so on. Okay, so now what is the value of a? Here is the first term, which is 1024. And what is r? Okay, because why am I saying r? I can see that this pattern is decreasing with a ratio. So that's why I'm going to conclude and say this is a geometry. But we're going to verify that. Né? Don't worry, I got you guys. We're going to definitely verify that what I'm saying is true. So this is my T1, this is T2, and this will be my T3. So now r is equals to T2 over T1. The answer should be the same as T3 over T2. Please pause the lesson, verify this, and make sure that the value of r is 256, which we divide by 1024. The answer should be the same when we say T3 over T2, which is equal to 64 divided by 256. Therefore, what is the value of r? The value of r is just 1 over 4. That is my r. So I'm going to need this r. I'm going to explain why we are determining r and why we are determining a. I think you already know also on your site. Why do we need those guys? So now what I'm going to do now is to find the sum of 8 terms. So the sum of 8 terms, it's equals to a into 1 minus r to the power n, and this is divided by what? 1 minus r. So you can use r to the power, you can use r to the power n minus 1 over r minus 1. It's fine, you'll still get the same answer. So now let's fix something here. What about n? What about n? Remember n, the formula to find the number of terms when we're working with sigma notation, it's n, it's equal to the top number, you minus the bottom number. The answer that you get, you add 1. So the top number is 8. We're going to say the number of terms will be 8 minus the bottom, which is 0, plus 1. Therefore, what is the number of terms? It's 9. Ladies and gents, if you use the number 8, everything will be wrong. So now, this makes sense because our sequence starts at 0. So since it starts at 0, we're going to have 9 terms. So what they are looking for is the sum of 9 terms. It's equal to, where there's n, we need to substitute 9. The value of a, we already know that this is 1024. Then into 1 minus r, which is 1 over 4 to the power 9. Close the bracket, divide everything by 1 minus 1 over 4. You can just punch that on the calculator also on your side. 1024 into 1 minus 1 over 4 to the power 9. Everything divided by 1 minus 1 over 4. So the sum of this is, this gives me 1365. If we round this to 2 decimal place, is 33. And that's it for this problem. This is how you find the sum when you are given the sigma notation. Okay, now let's look at this guy, the 3.2. Let's look at what we have here. The first two terms of the geometric series are minus t squared minus 6t minus 9, and this is t to the power 3. Okay, this is my t1 and this is my t2. Right, they say that determine the value of t for which the sequence will converge. Oh, I like this problem. I really like this. So now I see what they are doing and I see why is this 5 marks. Because look at this. We need to find what? We need to determine the values of t for which the sequence will converge. And we said the sequence converge if r is less than 1 and greater than minus 1. So this tells you that we need to find the value of r first, then substitute r in that formula. But look at this. What is r? R is t2 over t1. So what is your t2? Is t to the power 3 plus 9 t squared plus 27t plus 27. Everything is divided by 2. Then t1 is what? T1 is just minus t squared minus 6t minus 9. So I think why this has a lot of marks is because of we have to solve for r. Can you see that this is much complicated because we have a cubic function? So we're going to work on this problem on the other side. You know? Let's go to the other side. Let's work on it. I think the reason this is 5 marks is because of the cubic function, factorizing and stuff. So let's work on this. We're going to also have fun on this one. Let's look at this. Minus t squared minus 6t minus 9. So this is my term number 1. My t2 is t to the power 3, which we add 9t squared, and this is plus 27t, and this is plus 27 over, what is this? 2. So you know what I'm going to do. First thing first, we need to work out our terms. Let's work out our terms. So you see on this term, we can take out the negative as a common factor. We can take out the negative as a common factor, and this will give me t squared plus 6t plus 9. Then let's factorize this. What do you get when you factorize this term? So this will be minus, and then big brackets. Inside the bracket, we're just gonna open 2 brackets, and this is t on both sides. So the factors of 9 that when you add or subtract them, they give you 6 is 3 and 3. So since it's 3 and 3 and it's positive, both of the brackets should be positive. Right, so what is this telling you? This tells you that the t1, my t1 is equals to minus into 3, t plus 3 to the power 2. So this is my term 1. Right, hey, we need this. Let's quickly highlight that guy because we're going to need t1. Remember, to find r, we use the formula t1 t2 over t1. Okay, let's keep going. So now we need to do what? We need to work out on t3, term number 2. So term number 2 is given as t to the power 3. So can we remove the, remember everything here, it's multiplied by 1. Can we remove the 1 over 2 outside? Can can we remove the 1 over 2 and write it down here and say this is 1 over 2, and then we need to work out the bracket. So this will be t to the power 3 plus 9t squared plus 27t plus 27. Okay, so now that let's say that you are going to write a final exam, because this is a final examination. This tells me that you know everything so far and you know how to factorize a cubic function. I'm not going to use the grade 11 method. I'm not going to use the grade 12 method. But if you are watching the lesson and you are preparing for March control test, please, I'll ask you to maybe go back to grade 10 and find out how to factorize a cubic function. But if you already did calculus, by now you know how to factorize a cubic function using inspection. So now what we are currently focusing on is to finding what? T to the power 3 plus 9t squared plus 27t plus 27. So now, by inspection, meaning that first thing first, you're going to substitute. You try t to be 0, and then you try t1, you try t2, you try t3, or you can also try t minus 1, and so on. So now, when you substitute all these values, where there's t you put minus 1, we need the one that will give all this equation to be 0. When you substitute this, you won't get 0. You won't get 0, you won't get 0, you won't get 0. But look at this. When you put where there's t, when you put what? Okay, even this one doesn't give us 0. So this tells me that we need to substitute t is equals to minus 3. Try and substitute this one. So this one gives us a 0, meaning that t, because if it's t minus 3, I have this as t is equals to negative 3. We bring the 3 this side, so t plus 3 will be a factor. So this is how you find a factor. T plus 3 will be a factor. So now that you have a factor, look at what we're going to do. Now that you have a factor, we're going to say this equation, we can write this as 1 over 2. We need to factorize this by inspection, okay? So the factor is t plus 3. Close the bracket. Then the other side, inside the bracket, I'm just going to open a big bracket, then I'll explain what's going on. So now, we inspect this we do this by inspection. We need a number that we can multiply with t to get that t to the power 3. And that number is t squared. Then, on the last one, we need a number that we can multiply with 3 to get 27. That number is 9. So the 27 is positive. We need to say plus 9. Then please leave the middle as, what can we use? Plus b, ne? Let's leave the middle as plus. Should we say b? What is this? Should we say bt? Let's leave it as bt, because now the aim is to find what? The aim is to find that value of b. Okay, so to find the value of b by inspection, we need to okay, so now we're going to work out on finding the value of b. Okay, let's quickly work on that. Let's find the value of b. So what I'm going to do, I'm not sure what's the issue with my SP pen. Okay, so to find the value of b, you know what you're going to do first. You take this t, you multiply that with bt, because I'm trying to create t squared. So I'm going to say, maybe we should just remove this so that this can make sense for everyone. So we're going to say t multiplied by bt, this will give us b t squared, right? Then we need to create another term that is t squared. So how can we do that? We can get it by by multiplying these two, because this will be plus 3t squared. Right, so you're going to take this equation, you equate this to one term in the sequence, or the original sequence, that has what? T squared, which is 9t squared. So we only create t squared. So this will be 9t squared. I'm going to explain why we need to have the same variable that is raised to the same degree. The reason is that we are trying to get rid of that t. So if we take out the t squared here as a common factor, I'm left with b plus 3, close the bracket, this is equal to 9t squared. Then divide both sides by t squared, divide both sides by t squared. So these two cancels, I'm left with b plus 3, it's equal to 9, because these two will also cancel. So if b is equal to b plus 3 is equal to 9, what will be the value of b? Because the 3 goes to the other side to be negative, this will give us 6. So the value of b is 6. So now I'm just going to rewrite my equation down here. So what I have so far, it's 1 over 2 into, we have t plus 3, which is the first bracket, and on the second bracket we have t squared, or t plus 3 into t squared. The value of b, we calculated it to be 6, so this will be plus 6t plus 9. Can you see that when it's like this, it's going to be easy for you to factorize that quadratic function? So this will be my 1 over 2 into t plus 3 into, look at this, we can factorize that. We can definitely factorize that. So we're going to put t on both sides. The factors of 9, when we add or subtract them, they give us the middle number of 6. It's just 3 and 3. And since 9 is positive, this will give both of the brackets will be positive. So what do we note from this equation is that our second term, let's write it down and say our T2 it equals to, what is T2 equals to? Alright, so my T2 will be equals to 1 over 2 into, look at this, we only have t plus 3, and there's 3 of them. We can say this is raised to the power 3. So I have t1, I have t2. So the trick here was to simplifying your terms by factorizing. When you have t1 and t2, I think now it's easy to find the value of r, because remember, in order for us to prove that this is convergence, the value of r should be between 1 and minus 1. Right, so what is my T2? So look at this. We need to find r, and r is equals to T2 divided by T1. So T2, we said it's half of that t plus 3, and this is to the power 3. Divide everything by T1. So T1 is negative into t plus 3 squared. So let's substitute that this is negative into t plus 3 squared. So if, let's say, I assume that t plus 3, if I let the t plus 3 to be x, so the equation will be x to the power 3 over x to the power 2. So I'm trying to work this thing out. Ne? So this will be, the base are the same, we subtract the exponent. So we take the one on top, the exponent of the one on top, you subtract the exponent of the one on bottom, which is just x. So what I'm trying to say is that this guy, if we work out this, we know that x is t plus 3. So the squared here will cancel the 3 and will be left with 1. So this one is out. So the value of r is just negative 1 over 2 into t plus 3. That's the value of r. I think when it's like this, it's easy for us to work with we can work with this problem. This will be very easy. Let's quickly work on that. So now this r, I can write it as, remember this is over 1, so we can write it as negative into t plus 3. Everything is divided by 2. That is r. And we are saying that r must be less than 1 and greater than minus 1. So where there's r, I'm going to put minus t plus 3, which is inside the bracket. Everything divided by 2, and this must be less than 1, and this must be greater than minus 1. Okay, so now I'm just going to multiply both sides by 2 to get rid of that 2, so that in the middle I will have minus t plus 3 less than 2 greater than negative 2. So what do you get when you work out this? So now let's multiply out the bracket with negative first. Let's write this as negative t minus 3 less than 2 greater than negative 2. So what is the next step? The next step is to take the 3. We add 3 on both sides. Né? So the 3 will come this side to be positive, so it will be 2 plus 3, which will give us 5. So this will be 5 less than, inside the bracket we still have negative t, and then the 3 will also come this side to be positive 3. So we're going to have minus 2 plus 3, which is going to give us positive 1. Right. So now we need to divide everything by negative, because remember in the middle we have negative t. So I'm going to teach you something when it comes to dividing. Next, I'm going to teach you something when it comes to dividing. So what we are saying is that we have 1, which is minus t and 5. So when you divide everything by negative, remember the sign changes. So you don't have to stress about how are you going to change the sign, because remember you have the best tutor. So now I'm going to teach you what to do. We know that if we divide everything by negative, this will be minus 1 and this will be minus 5, but this one will be positive t. So what I need you to do to change the signs, this is how you change the sign. Please pay attention on this. This minus 1 comes this side, and this minus 5 will come this side. Then you change the sign. So your final solutions will be t less than minus 1 and greater than minus 5. So when you have it like this, you're going to get the full marks. I hope you enjoyed answering what was this question, the last question of question 3, which is 3.2. I hope that was helpful. So the trick was finding r. I think this is where they were trying to make your life difficult. So let's dive into question. Let's dive into questions. I mean functions. Okay, so on functions, this is what we are given. The graph of g at x is equals to a into 1 over 3 to the power x plus 7, and it passes through that point. Question 1, calculate the value of a. So to calculate the value of a, this is easy. We substitute the coordinates, the given coordinates. Now I'm just going to substitute my coordinate. I know this is x and this is y. So on the equation, on the original equation, you substitute those values. But now let's first rewrite this equation as y. It's equals to a into 1 over 3 to the power x plus 7. Where that's y, we put 10. 1 over 3, and where there's x, we're going to put negative 2 plus 7. Why? Because we are trying to solve the value of a. You just have to substitute this point. Okay, so now the 7 comes to the other side to be 10 minus 7. This 7 comes to the other side, and then it's going to change the sign. So this will be 10 minus 7, which is 3. It equals to a inside the bracket. This will give us what? I have this as 1 over 3 minus 2. Right, remember, any number, 1 to the power, what is this? 1 to the power minus 2. 1 to the power any number is 1. So if I have a over b, and this is raised to n, this will be a to the n over b to the n. That's the law that I applied here. I just said 1 to the power minus 1 over 2, which is just 1. Then I say 3 to the power negative 2. So I know that if I remind you another law of exponent, if I have 1 over 3, okay, let's say 1 over x. Let me remind you the laws of exponent. X to the power minus n. This is going to be equals to everything on your denominator without the negative of the exponent. So this guy, we can write this inside the bracket here as 3 squared. So we can definitely write this as 3. It's equals to a into 3 squared. And we know that 3 squared is 9. So 3 is equals to a into 9. Divide both sides by 9. Divide by 9. The value of a is what? The value of a is just 1 over 3. I'm very sorry for making this long. I just want to make sure that you get all the information. Right, let's work on the next question. The next question has to do with what? Calculating the coordinates of the y-intercept of G. How do we calculate the coordinates of the y-intercept? If you still remember, we find the y-intercept if x is equal to 0, meaning that on the equation, let's rewrite G. So G is y is equals to, whereas a, now we can substitute the value of a as 1 over 3. So this will be 1 over 3 into 1 over 3 to the power x plus 7. So to find the y-intercept, where there's x, you need to put your 0. So this will be 1 over 3 into 1 over 3 to the power 0 plus 7. Therefore, when you punch this on the calculator, you will get your y. Remember, 1 to the power 1 over 3 to the power 0 is 1. So this will be 1 over 3 plus 7, which gives us 22 over 3. They set the y-intercept. Please don't leave your answer like this. You need to write the final answer and say we already know that x is 0 and the corresponding y value is that 22 over 3. So when you have it like this, you're going to get all the marks. That's it. Let's dive into 4.3.1. Describe the translation from G to H. So consider that H at x is equal to 1 over 3 to the power x. So now let's write G at x down. Then let's write also H at x down. So G at x is equal to, so this is this was 4.2. This was 4.1, and then this is 4.3.1. Okay, so this is 4.3.1. Right, so come on. On this one, I'm going to say G at x, it's equals to, remember, it's 1 over 3 into 1 over 3 to the power x plus 7. So let's look at how f at h what formed. How did we form h at x? So look at h at x. H at x, it's 1 over 3 to the power x. This is what we have. So this one, to explain this, the transformation is that this part here, it's gone, and that part is gone. So let's start with the 7. The 7 is positive, and now to remove that 7 to form h at x, we need to subtract the 7. So we can see that to find that 0, we need to move 7 units down. Then we're going to conclude and say that therefore G at x moved 7 units down. Remember this, the value of q, remember what is this? Exponential equation is in the form of a b to the power x plus q. So the value of q tells us the vertical shift, if we're going up or down. If it's negative, we go up. If it's positive, we go down. But now what I need you to focus on is that minus 7, the one that we are subtracting. So this tells us that g at x moves 7 units down. So this one, it's 1 over 3. Remember the 1 over 3, the value of a tells us about the stretch of the graph. If the graph is compressed, the compression, it tells us about the compression. So what you can say about the compression is that when we remove the 1 over 3, the compression increased by what? The factor 3. So the compression, or you can say that the compression changed by, look at that denominator, factor 3. Then you answered this question, they will definitely give you your 2 marks. Okay. So now the last question of question 4 on this one, they want us to find the equation of the inverse of h in terms of, in the form y. So this is 4.3.2. We are given h at x, which is equals to 1 over 3 to the power x. So this is y, it's equals to 1 over 3 to the power x. Remember, when we find the inverse, we interchange x and y. So I'll bring the x this side, and this will be 1 over 3 to the power y. So now what happens next is that, remember, if I have y to be equals to a to the power x, should we use a to the power x? Okay, it's fine. Then now we interchange x and what? And y. Then we make y subject of the formula. Y will be the log of this x here becomes that number there, and then a, since it's the base, you're going to write it down here. Let's apply this to write the inverse. Remember, y subject of the formula, the log, this guy, you're going to write it somewhere inside the bracket here. The 1 over 3 is your base, it comes down there. Right, I think this is the best way to explain this. So when you have it like this, this will be your inverse function. So now that's it for this question. I think here we can also say h inverse is equals to that. Let's write it down here, or h inverse is equals to that. That's it for this question 4. Let's move to question 5. Okay, let's analyze what we are given on question 5. We have, consider the following g at x, and we can see that we are given the information. The domain, x must be an element of real numbers, but x must not be equals to minus 2. So this tells me that the minus 2 is the axis, or what is this? The minus 2 is the vertical asymptote. So what I'm trying to say is that if this is my graph like this, somewhere at minus 2, we're going to have the asymptote like that. So this is x, it's minus 2. Okay, the x-intercept at k, which is 1 and 0, and the y-intercept. So this is the only information that we are given, and we need to answer 5.1. 5.1 says, show that the equation g is given by minus 3 over x plus 2 plus 1 for 6 marks. Wow, 6 marks. Are we going to have any problems on this one? Why is it 6 marks? Let's work on this one. 5.1, we know that g at x is equals to negative 3 over x plus 2. Then this is plus 1. So now what we're going to do is that when I have it like this, I'm going to check my first given value, which is the x-intercept. I can definitely substitute that. the x-intercept, which is 1, I can substitute the 1 and 0. So when I substitute the 1 and 0 on that equation, we are lying. This is not given. We need to prove this. Né? This is not given. Let us prove that it's in that form. So this will be A on top, x plus p, and then plus q. Right. So if we do the substitution, remember that I know what is my x and what is my y. So meaning on the equation where there's y, remember this is just y. Where there's y, I need to put 0. Where there's x, I need to put y. So this will be 0. It equals to a over 0 plus p. 0. But now we know what is the value of p. Remember when we calculate the axis of symmetry, what do? We take the denominator, the x plus p, we equate that to 0. So x will be equal to minus p. So now, if I have x to, we were given x to not be equal to minus 2. So this tells me that since this is the axis of symmetry, we can write it and say x minus 2 is equal to 0. Therefore, x is equal to 2, negative 2. So that's how we got that asymptote. So now I can take this guy, substitute it back on my equation. So this will be, when I substitute it back, when we substitute it back on the equation, let's start by rewriting our equation first. So this will be, this equation will be y is equals to a over x plus 2 and then plus q. So now that is the equation. Let's keep that in the block so that no one gets confused. Right. So now when we do the substitution, now it's going to be easy because where there's y, we said we put 0, and where there's x, we put 1. So this will be 1 plus 2 plus q, which gives us 3. Né? So if this gives us 3, the denominator is 3. We can say this is 0 is equals to a over 3 plus q. Let's multiply everything here by 3. So 0 into 3 is equals to 3 into a over 3 plus 3 into q. So this will be 0 is equals to, the 3 cancel, this is a plus 3q. So now I can definitely say, therefore, the value of a is negative 3q. Let me call this equation 1. Right. To find the second equation, we can substitute another point, and to find the second equation, we can substitute another point. So now my question is that which point are we going to use? Which point are we going to use? I think now we can use this y-intercept. Né? So we're going to sub in that 0 and minus 2. So where there's y, we put negative 1 over 2. And this is equals to a over, where there's x, what do we do? We put 0. So this will be 0 plus 2, then plus q. Let's quickly work on that. Né? So we know that we're going to have this as minus 1 over 2. It's equals to a over 2 plus q. So multiply everything by 2. So this will be negative 1. It's equal to a plus 2q. I'm very sorry for jumping that step because I see that we don't have much space. Né? But now, ladies and gents, we know what is q. Né? we know what is the value of q. We set the value of q, it's minus 3q. The value of a, we know what is the value of a. So meaning that on that equation where there's a, we can substitute that minus 3q. So I'm just going to work this thing and say this is minus 1. It's equals to, where there's a, I can put minus 3q plus 2q. So when you add the 3q and the 2q, what do you get? You just get q. So q is equal to minus 1. Oh, that's nice. We have the value of q, which is minus 1. Wait, is this making sense when we say q is minus 1? Nope, it's not making sense, because look at this. This is plus 1. Let's quickly go back and see what the mistake that we did. I think the mistake that I've made, you see now I'm including you in my mistake. The mistake that we did. Okay, so now my mistake here was to say minus 3q plus 2q. It's minus 1. Okay, so this is negative q. When you add this 2, you get negative q. And this is minus 1. Divide both sides by negative 1. Divide both sides by negative 1. Therefore, the value of q is 1. So if the value of q is 1, we can find what? We can definitely find the value of a. Remember, we know what is a. A is minus 3q. So we can say that the value of a is equal to negative 3. Where there's q, what do we do? Where there's q, we substitute 1. And now the value of a will be negative 3. So if we substitute this, g at x, it's equal to, where there's a, we're going to substitute minus 3, and where there's q, we put 1. So you can see that we definitely solved this. So we can substitute on this equation. Where there's the value of a, you put 3, and where there's q, you put 1. So this will be 3, and this will be 1. And that's it for this question. I just want us to move to the next question. Let's see. Okay, so write down the range of g. Guys, remember, this is an hyperbola. So since it's an hyperbola, the range is always the same. Oh no, not always the same. I'm gonna say the range is always y must be an element of real numbers. Y must be an element of real numbers. But there's that y value your graph must not touch, which is the value of q. Your graph must not touch q. Therefore, y must not be equals to 1. I hope this makes sense. I hope you are happy about that. So 5.3, on 5.3, they want us to determine the equation of h, the axis of symmetry of g, in the form of y is equal to mx plus c, where m is greater than 0. How do we do that? The equation of h, which is what? The axis of symmetry. The axis of symmetry of g, in the form y is equal to mx plus c. So now what I'm going to do, they said the gradient is positive. So the equation of axis of symmetry with a positive gradient is x plus c. So the aim now is to only calculate, that value of what? The value of c. So we substitute your horizontal and vertical asymptote. So look at this. From the equation, we need to substitute p is to q. Remember, the value of p is the horizontal asymptote, which was given as negative 2. So it's going to be, this coordinate will be negative 2 and 1. Those are the coordinates that we need to substitute. So I have y, it's equals to x plus c. So where there's x, I put minus 2. Where there's y, I put 1. So this will be 1 into x. Okay, let's substitute that x. So the x will be negative 2 plus c. So the negative 2 comes this side. We're going to have c as 3. So to answer their question, the coordinates of the axis of symmetry is just y is equal to x plus 3. And that's it for that question. Easy, easy, easy. But let's assume that instead of m greater than 0, they said m must be less than 0. So if m is less than 0, the axis of symmetry for the negative gradient is y is equal to minus x plus c. Then you do the same, you substitute that minus 2 and 1. Okay, write down the coordinates of k prime, the image of k reflected over h. So I'm just gonna write it down and remind you that h at x is x plus 3. And let's go and write down the coordinates of k. What is the coordinates of k? Okay, so the coordinates of k is given as, the coordinates of k is given as 1 and 0. Let's write the coordinates of k down here. So k is 1 and 0. So this is your x, this is your y. Okay. So now what I'm going to do when I'm given this type of a problem, so please pay attention on this one. We need the point k over that equation. So we need k over this. So this a reflection. This will be what? This we're going to call it the reflection. This will be the reflection over the y is equals to x plus 3. So we're going to say, we're going to use the reflection of y is equals to x plus c rule. I'm just going to give you the rule now, the rule that you need to understand to answer this question. Because remember the axis of symmetry, that h at x, we got it from that formula. So the rule says that if I have the coordinates x and y, this guy will change into what? This guy will change into, we take the y coordinates, we minus the value of c to get the x, and then we take the x coordinate, we add the value of c to get the y coordinate. So I know that already you guys have a lot of questions. Please make sure that you leave your questions on the comment section and I'll definitely go through them and answer you. So when it's like this, we know that to find the y, look at this. The y here is 0. So this will be 0 minus the value of c. And if you still remember, we said c is 3. So we're going to minus that 3. So this will be 0 minus 3. Then this is x, which is 1. We're going to say 1 plus the value of c, which is 3. So the coordinates of k, it equals to negative 3 and positive 4. And that's it for this question, ladies and gents. That's it for the question. This is how you answer the question, and you'll definitely collect all the marks. Right. So we still have functions here. This is functions on question 6. We still have functions. And on the function, they say that the sketch below shows the graph of f at x is equal to minus x squared minus 6x plus 7. We are given c as the y-intercept. So I don't want to waste time. I'm a man of, I always like to take action. Let me just put it like that. So since they say c is the y-intercept, I already know what will be the coordinates of that point, because remember we have the equation of f at x. C, remember the x-intercept is the value of c. So it's going to be, already we know the x is 0 and that one will be 7, the value of c. So the y-intercept is always 0 and the value of c. A and B are the x-intercept. We can see that, and then we are given the point on F, which is D. Answer the following questions. they want you to calculate the coordinates of the turning point of F, the coordinates of E. I think everyone still understands now that to find the turning point, we need to find the equation of the derivative. Né? Equate the derivative to 0 and solve for x. That's how we find the turning point. So what you did in calculus, please also apply it here. So my f at x, so I need to find f prime of x, which will be negative 3x squared minus 6. Why are we bringing the x squared? It's minus 3x minus 6. So this is what we have, minus 3x minus 6. So, come on guys, come on. I know it's been long that we are working on this video. I just paused the lesson, I went to sleep, then I come back in the morning, this is me again. So, just give me a second guys. Okay. So, let's find the derivative now. Let's find the derivative. So, this will be f prime of x, it's equals to negative 2x minus 6. Then we take the derivative, we equate it to 0. So when we take the derivative, we equate it to 0, what do we get? We're going to say this will give us negative 2x minus 6, it's equals to 0. Then negative 2x, it's equals to 6. Divide both sides by negative 2. The value of x is negative 3. We have the x coordinates of E so far, which is negative 3. How do we find the corresponding y value? To find the corresponding y value, we just have to substitute that minus 3 in the original equation. We need to find f at negative 3. So you punch this on the calculator. Please work on it on your side. So it's negative into negative 3. And this is squared minus 6 into negative 3 and plus 7. When you punch this on the calculator, the answer that you get is the corresponding y value of E, which is minus into minus 3 squared minus 6 into minus 3 plus 7. This gives us 16. So the coordinates of E is just minus 3 and 16. I hope you guys are enjoying this. So now write down the value of k. Where is k? Okay, it's easy this one guys, to find the value of k, because you already have the x, what? The x-intercept. Nah? We already have the x-intercept and we are looking for the value of k. So we just have to find, and this is one mark. Now we just have to find f at minus 5. So f at minus 5. So on the original equation, where there's x, we put minus 5 to find the corresponding value. Minus 5 plus 7. Then you punch this on the calculator. We find that k is equals to 12, which makes sense because if this is 16, we should get a number less than 16. So k is 12. Okay, so now the next question says determine the equation of the straight line passing through C and D. Okay, so I'm just gonna create that straight line that passed through these two guys. So if this is my line, so the line passes through what? These 2 points. Né? We need the equation of that line. So to find the equation of that line, this is 6.3. To find the equation of that line, what I need you to do is to first find the gradient. We said this is 6.3, né? Is to first find the gradient. So we need to look for the gradient of CD, which we're going to use the formula y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to say C comes first. This will be my x1, this will be my y1, then D, this will be my x2, this will be my y2. So that it becomes more easy for me to substitute. I don't want to make any mistakes. Né? So y2 is 12 minus y1, which is, we said y1 is 0, so this will be 12. Wait, y1 is 7. Divide by x2, it's minus 5. And then x1 is 0, so this will be minus 5 minus 0. Therefore, the gradient of CD is equals to, you punch that on the calculator. On top we have 12 minus 7, which is 5 over minus 5, so the gradient is negative 1. So now that you have the gradient, what's next? We have to take this gradient, substitute it on the straight line equation. Right, so I'm just gonna keep on working on that and say this is y is equal to mx plus c. Already we know the gradient, so y will be negative x plus c. We can substitute any point, so I'm just gonna choose the c because of that 0. Né? So the equation of this, I can choose that c. Where there's y, I need to put 7. It's equals to, where there's x, I put 0 plus c. Therefore, what is the value of c? Is just 7. So we go back and substitute c on that part. So this will be y is equal to minus x plus 7. This is the equation of CD. That is the equation of CD. I'm just gonna try to highlight that because I know that on the next question we might need to use that equation. And that's it for this problem. Let's see what we have next. A tangent parallel to CD touches F at P. Determine the coordinates of P for 4 marks. So remember, the tangent will only touch the graph at one point only, and it should be parallel to C. So maybe I can put, I don't know where to put this. Let me just put it here. I'm not sure, guys, it won't be drawn to scale, but remember it must only touch at that P. Please, it must only touch at this point, only at that point, like this. Only at that point. Né? So these two lines are parallel. So what do we know about the parallel lines? They have equal gradient. So the gradient of that line will be what? Will be the gradient of that CD, which is minus 1. So far we know the gradient. So the gradient of the tangent, I'm just going to write it down. Eh? I'm not sure where we're going to work this out. What is this? 6.4. So for 6.4, we're going to say, for this 6.4, the gradient of the tangent is equals to minus 1 because the two lines are parallel. So we need this coordinate of P. So now what I need you to understand is that P is in the form of X and Y. So remember, this X, it equals to the gradient of the tangent. It's equals to the gradient of the tangent. So they are equal. So they are equal. So to find that gradient, we need to derive the equation of your graph, your f. So we need to find f prime at x. The answer that we get, we can equate that to the gradient. Then solve for x to find that x value. I think when we say they are equal, this is not true. I was trying to say that the derivative to find that x value, to find the x value of the tangent at a point, you find the derivative of f at x, then you equate that to the gradient of what? You can equate to the gradient of that tangent. So let's find f prime. We know that f at x was given as minus, we already have the f prime is this one, so I'm just going to substitute it here and say this is minus 2x minus 6, this is equal to minus 1. So let's solve for x. So when we solve for x, the x that we get is the x value of p. The x value of a point P. So now this will be, the 6 comes on the other side, this will be 5. So this will be minus 2x is equal to 5. Divide by minus 2x is just negative 5 over 2. We need to find the corresponding y value. How do we do that? We find f at minus 5 over 2. Meaning that on the original f at x, where there's x, we're going to substitute what? That minus 5 over 2. So this will be minus 5 over 2 squared minus 6 into minus 5 over 2 plus 7. That was the equation of f at x. So the corresponding y value, we get this to be, so when I put this on the calculator, I get 63 over 4. So I can conclude and say, therefore, the point P, the x value of the point P is minus 5 over 2, and the corresponding y value is 63 over 4. Ladies and gents, please make sure that you follow the instructions. The equation of a straight line passing through D, we did that, and then they want us to find the tangent parallel to CD. It touches F at P. So to find this x coordinate, we need to find the derivative of f at x and then equate that to what? Equate that to the gradient and solve for x. The answer that you get is the x coordinate of P. To find the corresponding y value, you substitute back on the original equation. Guys, I think we are having so much fun because I'm really enjoying this. I hope you are also enjoying on your side. So now, 6.5, for which values of x will f at x minus 12 greater equals to 0? You know what I do, ne? I don't like to stress myself with this type of equation. I know that you can just answer this question by looking at the point by symmetry, but I am just gonna go with the easiest way to do this. Look at this. I know what is f at x equals to. Let's write it down. F at x, we know that it's negative x squared minus 6x plus 7, and we minus what? We are minusing 12. We minus 12, and this must be greater than 0. So meaning that these two guys are the like terms, this will be minus x squared minus 6x plus 7 minus 12 is minus 5. Right? This is greater than 0. But now there's nothing we can do. First, we need to divide everything by negative. So this will be x squared plus 6x plus 5. What happens when we divide by negative? The sign changes. Right, so now we have an inequality, a quadratic inequality that we can factorize. I know this is too much for 2 marks, but you know what? Because that I need these 2 marks, I'm just gonna do it now. Because I understand how the inequalities work. Even if you write everything, we need that 2 marks. It doesn't matter if the solution is low, don't be lazy. Work for those marks, né? Right. So now the factors of 5, when we add or subtract them, they give us 6. It's just 5 and 1, but since it's positive, both of them will be positive. So what are my critical values? CV, critical values, it's minus 1. Let's start with the small one, minus 5 and minus 1. So you're going to draw a number line. You see, this is an inequality. So they're asking inequality on function. You draw a number line, you start with the small number, then the bigger number. This is my number line. Then I'm just gonna put this here and let's put that there. Okay, so we know that this will be concave up because I'm only referring to this partner. So I need to choose any number between -5 and -1. We can choose -2. So this will be -2 squared. So we substitute on that equation. Where there's x, we put -2. 6 into -2 plus 5. So this is 4 minus 12 plus 5. Right. So if you apply the BODMAS, if you do the BODMAS, you're going to get that the solution between this gives us a negative answer. Né? This gives us a negative. So this tells you that the solution between it's what? The solution between is negative and the other side will be positive. But on the question, if you go back to this part here, we are looking for where the solution is negative. So it's negative in between. So since we're saying it's negative in between, it's going to be from this point going in that direction and from that point going in that direction. So therefore, x must be less than -1 and greater than -5. So this is your final answer. And that's it for this question 6. That's it for question 6. So next question, this is finance. So we need to work on finance. Then there's question 8, where we have to do the derivatives and stuff. And then there's question 9, cubic functions. Then there's probability. So let's keep on rolling. So on finance, I'm not sure how are we going to answer this, but we can try and squeeze all the questions here on the question paper. Okay, so now let's work on finance. Let's see what we have on the finance questions. So the first one, what we have is that the question is asking how many years will it take for an investment to double in value. So when they say double in value, this tells you that the final amount A is doubled, so A will be 2. If it earns an interest rate of what? 8.5% per annum compounded quarterly. So now what will be my interest rate? I will be equals to, we need to take that 8.5% divided by 100. So this is the same as saying 8.5. Divide that by 100. This gives us 0.085. Right. So now remember, they said this is compounded quarterly. I'm going to divide that 0.085. Let's divide that guy. Compounded quarterly, it's 4. So we divide that by 4. If it's compounded monthly, you divide by 12. Okay. Right. So we have the interest rate. We can just write down the formula. Remember, this is compound interest, and the formula for compound interest is A. Okay, this is 7.1. The formula for compound interest is A. It's equals to P into 1 plus I, everything to the power n. Then the value of A we said is 2. Now let's talk about the principal amount. So if it doubled, the final amount is doubled. If the final amount is 2, what will be the value of P? It's just 1, because we start with 1, then we double 1 to be 2. So where does P? I'm gonna substitute 1. So this will be 1 plus the interest rate of that 0.085. So this will be 0.085 divided by what? Let's divide this by 4. We forgot to talk about n. How many years? So since this thing is compounded quarterly, the number of years will be 4 times n, which is 4n. So n will be 4n. So now to work this thing out, I think the best way is to use logs. Né? So I'm just going to quickly remind you. I don't think this will work, guys. The space is not enough. Né? I'm just going to quickly remind you how the logs works. Let's write this. Let's write this on top. Remember, if I have y, if I have this, first thing first, we interchange, and this will be a to the y. So to make y subject of the formula, the y is the one that is the exponent. So y here, it will be the 4n. So we're going to say y is equals to, then this will be 4n, it's equals to, then we say the log, then this a, okay, put this x inside the bracket, and then we're going to put what? This 2 inside the brackets, and then the base, which is a. Now here the base, it's whatever that you have inside the bracket. The base, which is a, comes here. So whatever that is inside the bracket will come down here. So this will be 1 plus 0.085 divided by 4. Therefore, you just have to work this thing out. Né? Let's divide both sides by 4 to make n. Divide everything there by 4. I hope this makes sense. Therefore, what is the value of n? What is the number of yes? So when I punch this on the calculator, let me see what I get, guys. I'm very sorry about the background noise. Né? Let me quickly pause the lesson so that the noise can go down. Okay. Thank you to the noise. I got some time to eat some snack, just 1 minute. So now look at what we have. Remember, we said we divide both sides by 4. So just punch that correctly on the calculator. So now n is equals to the log of what? The log of 1 plus 0.085 over 4, close the bracket. This is 2. Please learn how to punch that. Now, unfortunately, I can't share the screen and show you guys how you can punch it. Just fight with it until you get the right answer. This is divided by 4, and the value of n that I got on my side, it's 8.24 years. 8.24 years. Right, so we can route this down and say, therefore n is equals to 8 years. Or maybe 8 years and 2 months or something. I don't know. It's fine. Just write it like this, collect the marks. Né? Let's see what we have on the next question. 7.2.1. They say that a company purchased machine for 500,000. So if the company purchased a machine for 500,000, what is that telling you? This is my value of P. This is P. And then for what? After 5 years, and the machinery was sold for, this is the accumulated amount, the final amount, and a new machinery was bought. Calculate the rate of depreciation. They want us to find the rate of depreciation of the old machine over 5 years using the reducing balance method. When they say the reducing, they are asking you to use the formula A. It equals to P into 1 minus I to the power n. So that's the formula that we're going to use to answer 7.2.1. Let's quickly work on that, né? Because we don't have much time. So if we work on that, what do we have? This will be A. It equals to P into 1 minus I to the power n. So remember A, we know that this is 180,000. It's equals to the value of P, what we start with, which is 500,000. Guys, I think for now you've already realized that when I teach, I don't like to tell more stories. I don't like to go into too much details. I just focus on what the question has, because I think too much details can confuse you. Yeah? So P will be 500,000 rand. Not 500, 500, oh yes, 500,000 into 1 minus I to the power n. Okay, we know that n is 5 to the power 5. So let's try to work out on this problem. I'm just going to divide both sides by the 500,000, because I'm trying to isolate the rate. So this will be the 500,000, and then when we divide this gives us 9 over 25, which is equals to 1 minus I to the power n. Guys, you can use the logs, or you can just continue working on this. So this is to the power 5. Né? So what I can do, I can find how can I remove that 5 on top. Remember, when we have a square, we square both sides. That's exactly what we're going to do in this problem. We're going to do, in this problem, we're going to say to remove the 5, we square, look at this, we square both sides. Né? But what I need you to understand is that since this is 5, we need to put 5 there, and we need to put 5 there. Please make sure that you calculated that on your calculator. Put it on your calculator. Say log, then oh, not log, shift what. You'll see the symbol there, guys. I think looking at that, you guys are doing great. 12. These are some of the things that you already understand. Eh? So now I have this as 5 of 9 over 25. It's equals to this cancels 1 minus the rate. Then you know what I'm going to do to make my life simple. I'm just gonna take the rate this side to be positive, and I'll say I is equals to, then take this side to be negative. So this will be 1 minus 5 the root of 9 over 25. Punch that on the calculator. We get that the rate is 1 minus 5 root 9 over 5 over 25. This gives us 0.1848 and so on. So I'm just going to multiply answer to find R. I'm just going to multiply answer. Remember, we're looking for the rate, so we need to multiply this by 100. So this will give me 18.48%. 18.48%. And that's it for this question. And yes, everything is good. Right. 7.2.2. They say the rate of the inflation for the cost of the new machine is 6.3. Guys, what is the rate of inflation? Please think about that question. Eh? The rate of the inflation is how items increase prices every year, per year. Eh? So now they say the rate is 6.3% over 5 years. What will the new machinery cost at the end of 5 years? So now the new machinery, this is compound interest. Né? So A is equal to P. A is equal to P into 1 plus I to the power n. So since this is there, compound interest, this will be A is equals to, so this is 7.2.2. Can you see, guys, we are fighting to put everything on this page. Né? So now this is equals to P. What is the value of P? Remember, this, we're trying to calculate the inflation rate. You start with 500,000 rand, and then 1 plus the interest rate is 6.3, which will be 6.3 divided by 100. This gives us 0.06 0.063. So we're going to add 0.063. When you calculate the inflation rate, we use the compound formula. And this is to the power n. They said what will be the cost of the new machinery after 5 years. So now when we punch this on the calculator, we should get the value of A. Okay, 500,000 Rand into 1 plus 0.063 to the power 5. I think compound finance is easy enough. So on my side, I got 678,635. Okay, 678,635 and 1 cent. If we round it off to 2 decimal places, and that's the answer for that one. Okay, let's keep going. They say that they want us to find, okay, the company set up a sinking fund. Right. The sinking fund and made the first payment into this fund on the day the old machinery was bought. The last payment was made 3 months before. Look at this. 3 months before the new machinery was purchased. So they make the last payment and they're going to leave the whole amount for 3 months before they purchase the machine. Okay, and this is 5 years. The interest earned on the sinking fund was 10.5. So my interest, it's equal to 10.5. 25, ne? 10.25 divided by 100. So therefore the interest is the interest will be 0.1025. That's my interest. So now compounded monthly, we divide by 12, and then we need to take this interest, we divide it by 12. The money from the sinking fund and the 180,000 from the sale of the old machinery was used to pay for the new machinery. Oh, this is good. Look at what is going on here now. We know that the cost of the new machinery is this price. So from this price already we have what? Already we have 180,000 from what? From when we sell the old one to buy the new one. We already have this amount, and now they say calculate the monthly payment into the sinking fund. So we need to know how much is the sinking fund, how much is required if we already have 180,000. We're trying to save for what? 678,000, but we already have 180. So first thing first, we need to find the sinking fund amount. Sinking F, it's equals to, we know that the new machine will cost 678,635, right? Then we going to say this is 0.11. We subtract what we already have, which is 180,000. Right, so since we have this, what will be the sinking fund? What do you guys get on your side? What will be the sinking fund? So I'm gonna subtract this 2, and what I get is 498,635.11. So this is the amount of the sinking fund, and they want us to calculate the monthly payment that was made into the sinking fund. So are we making monthly payments? Yes, this is the future value, and the formula for future value that we're going to use is F is equals to X into 1 plus I to the power n minus 1. Everything divided by what? Everything is divided by I. Right, but now I need to explain something. Né? I need to explain something. Look at what is this statement saying. The statement says that the last payment was made 3 months before. So if the last payment was made 3 months before, what is this telling you? That this tells you that we're going to leave whatever money that we get for 3 months. So that money will have what we call another interest. So we're going to multiply this by the compound interest, which is 1 plus I to the power n. Right, and that's it, ladies and gents. So now let's work on this formula. Let's just do the substitution. Eh? So the final amount is 498. That's what we are trying to save for. So we are trying to save for 498 635.11, and this is equals to x. It's what we are looking for. I'm just gonna leave the x outside the bracket. Then this will be 1 plus the interest rate of, we said our r is 0.1025 over 12. This is inside the bracket to the power n, guys, to the power n. So now this is for how many months? This is 5 years. But since this is 5 years, n times 5 is 60. But remember, we need to find the number of payments that we're going to make. How many payments are we going to make if the last payment was made 3 months before the new machinery was purchased? So this tells you that this will be, if n, what is n? N is equals to 5 times 12, which is 60. So we're not going to make 60 payments because we're going to stop 3 months before the new machinery was purchased. At the end of what? The last payment was made 3 months before the new machinery was purchased, at the end of the 5 years. So now the most mistake that learners make is to subtract 3 from that 60. That's not true. Remember how the months works, right? So the months work like this. If you start paying, you're not going to start paying at the first day of the month. You pay the last day of the month. So 3 months is 2 months. I hope you guys understand. So now what I'm trying to say is that if we stop 3 months before, so 3 months before, the last month is where we're going to take out our sinking fund investment. I'm not going to count that one. So this will be 60 minus 2. So this will be to the power 58. Right. So now we said this is minus 1 inside the bracket. Everything is divided by what? Everything is divided by, what is this? The 0.1025 over 12. I'm not gonna lie, guys, I'm not having fun. I just don't like finance, né? Because of this too much isolating x, what I don't like x. Let's multiply this by the interest component. So we're going to multiply this by 1 plus the interest rate is still 0.1025 to the power over 12. Now what about the number of months? We said we're going to leave this for 3 months, so this will be to the power 3, the interest component for that 3 months. So now the difference is that here we don't include 3 months, but for the interest component we include the 3 months. So I'm just gonna take this thing to the other side. Let's try to work on it step by step. Né? Okay, we said we have 498 635.11, which is equated to x into 1 plus 0.1025 over 12 minus 1. Right. And now this is over 0.1025 divided by 12 multiplied by the interest component of 1 plus 0.1025 divided by 12 to the power 3. So now when it's like this, remember this is the same as over 1. Let's try to isolate this now. First thing first, I'm going to take the 498,635.11, multiply that by the 0.1025 over 12. Let's equate this to x into what? 1 plus 0.1025 over 12. Close the bracket. Then big brackets into 1 plus 0.0, okay, not 0. This will be 1025 now. So this is 1025 over 12. Then this is to the power 3. So to isolate x, we need to divide both sides by that 1 plus 0.01025 over 12. Yo guys, you see why I don't like finance. 1 plus 0.1025. This is to the power 58 now. You see? And it's easy to make mistakes on finance. That's why I don't like this one. Over 12. But remember, you don't have a choice when on your side. Né? You need to like it to master it. Né? Then this will be 1 plus 0.1025 over 12. That is to the power. Okay. Into. What's going on here, guys? What did I do? Hey? Oh, this one is the one that is to the power 58. And where's the minus 1? Oh, guys, I think you can see what's going on here. Né? Hey, finance man. Hey. This topic. Okay, this is minus 1. Minus 1 into 1 plus 0.1025 over 12 to the power 3. So this is minus 1, and then inside the bracket we have 1 plus 0. Please take time now, sit down, work this thing out so that these two cancelled. Then x is equal to, guys, I can't write this thing again. You just have to put it on your calculator. Né? Put it correctly on your calculator, and I'm also working on it. I'm just gonna put this on the calculator. So this will be 58. Né? So let me put this on the calculator. Let's see what I get on my side. And I'm very happy that this is the last question on finance. Okay, so on top, this is what we have. So I'm just gonna put this on the calculator. This is multiplied by 0.1025 over 12, and everything is divided. So now this is 3. Everything is divided by this, and the value of x is 6,510.36. So this will be their monthly payment. Guys, I can't wait to move to the next question. Né? Please make sure that you understand all the steps that we did. I think the most important thing that you need to understand here is the compound interest part. Why are we multiplying by 1 plus I to the power n? Because the money was left in the account for 3 months. Right, I'm just gonna pause the lesson here, take a quick break, then we're going to start with question 8 because I can feel that now I need some petrol. Né? And Then when we come back, we'll continue with question 8. Okay, so now let's continue with question 8. Let's see what we have on this question 8. They say that determine f prime from the first principle. I know that you guys know what you need to do here. This is an easy 5 marks, but my tip that I'm going to give you guys, the tip that I'm going to give you is that first thing first, try to derive that without using the first principle, and we find this is as negative 2x. So when we don't find negative 2x as our answer, this tells us that Ujila Porsche, you did something wrong somewhere. Right, so now let's write down the f prime. We know that the f prime, I think it's best if we work this on the board. Né? So we're going to say f at x is minus x squared. So let's quickly write this on the board. We have f at x, which is equals to negative x squared, and we need to determine f prime of x from first principle. Right, when we determine f at x from first principle, we're going to say this is equals to the limit as h approaches 0. Then I have f at x plus h, we minus f at x. Then everything is divided by h. So now, first thing first, we need to find f at x plus h. What is that equals to? Where there's x on the original equation, we put x plus h, and this is squared. So let's quickly work on that. This is negative, big brackets. The x plus h, we expanded the brackets so that we can multiply the brackets. So this will be negative into x times x, that's x squared. X times h, that's xh. Then, so what I'm trying to say here, I'm using the FOIL method. These two guys gives me x, then multiply that by x also, then this times this times that. So if we skip maybe something there, this will be x squared, then plus 2xh plus h squared. So what is this equal to? This is, if you multiply out the bracket by negative, this will be negative x squared minus 2xh minus h squared. So f prime of x, it's equal to the limit as h approaches 0. Where there's f at x plus h, we know what we need to substitute. Minus x squared minus 2xh minus h squared minus f at x, I'm going to put it inside the bracket, negative x squared, then divide everything by that h. So let's work on the top part. So what is the limit as h approaches 0? This is minus x squared minus 2xh minus h squared. These two guys, they will be positive. This is positive x squared divided by h. Now I check if I have any like terms. Né? This, which is that one, and this one, they cancel because they are like terms with different signs. So when they cancel, what do we have so far? This is the limit as h approaches 0. So now this is minus 2xh minus h squared over h, because the reason we are doing the limit is to get rid of that h on the denominator. So I can take my common factor on top, which is h, inside the bracket. I'm left with negative 2x minus h, divide that by h. So the h cancels, I'm left with the limit as h approaches 0 of negative 2x minus h. So when it's like this, after removing that one on the denominator, you can substitute. When you substitute, you drop the limit as h approaches 0. It's very important to know that, because if you don't drop it, everything is wrong. Drop this. Drop the lim as h approaches 0 when you start the substitution. So this will be negative 2x minus into 0. The answer is just negative 2x. Exactly what we got when we did the derivative. So please make sure that you show all the steps on your answer. On your answer. Let's look at what we have on the next one. Okay, the next one, I think it can fit here, 8.2.2. Let's work on that. So on this one, we need to find the x. Right, we need to find the x, and it's what? We need to first work out what we have inside the bracket. Let's remove the suds first. So remember, if I have the root of x, this is the same as x, 1 over 3, 1 over 2. And if I have n, the root of x to the power m, this is equal to x, then what you have outside there, what you have outside the bracket becomes your denominator. The exponent inside the square root, the exponent inside the square root becomes your numerator, and what you have outside becomes your denominator. So we're going to apply that to change the 3 root of x. So remember, the x is to the power 1, so we can write this as what? X, what we have inside the square root, the exponent inside the square root becomes on top, and the one outside becomes on bottom. So we can write that as negative 6 times x to the power 1 over 3. Then this is plus 2. Everything is divided by x to the power 4. Right, I think everyone can agree with me when I say we can write this equation as minus 6x to the power 1 over 3 over x to the power 4 plus 2 over x to the power 4. Because if I have a plus b over c, I can write this as a over c plus b over c. Right, so now let's get rid of that. Someone can say we are dividing the same base. Look at this. We are still simplifying that. The base are the same. What do we do to the exponent? We subtract them. So we're going to take the 1 on top. So this will be dx. We're going to take the 1 on top. We subtract the 1 on bottom. So this will be dx inside the bracket minus 6x. We take that 1 over 3 on top. We subtract the 4 on bottom. Then we do the same this side. This side will be 2. Then the x becomes negative x to the power minus 4, because if I have 1 over x to the n, I can change this and write it as x to the power minus n. So this is what I did. So now when you have it like this, we can just simplify that. Minus 6x, 1 over 3 minus 4, that's negative. Negative 11 over 3. Then we add 2 x to the minus 4. So everything is simplified. We drop what? We're going to drop the dx, because now we start finding the derivative. You drop the dx. After simplifying, you are more than welcome to drop the dx when you start simplifying. So this will be the x, we drop it, so this will be minus 6. We're going to multiply that by minus 11 over 3. So we bring the minus 11 over 3 down, and then now we're going to say x to the power minus 11 over 3 minus 1 plus 2, which will be multiplied by minus 4, x to the power minus 4 minus 1. So let me quickly explain what is going on here. Remember, if I have x, n to the power, how can I put this? Let's say I have x to the power n. What is the derivative of that? Then n comes down to multiply with that one. So this will be n x to the power n minus 1. So this is the derivative. So now what I did, I bring the exponent down. You multiply the exponent with the coefficient of that x, which is minus 6. Then you subtract 1 on top. You do the same this side. The exponent comes down. You multiply the exponent with that 2. Then you subtract 1. So let's quickly add and simplify this thing. So this will be minus 6 times 4, 11 over 3. That's positive 22. Then we have x to the power minus 11 over 3 minus 1. That's equals to minus 14 over 3. So this will be negative 14 over 3. Then this side, this will be negative 2 times negative 4, it's negative 8. So this will be negative 8 x to the power minus 5. You can leave your answer like this, or you can continue to work out and write your answer as a positive exponent form. So maybe you can write this as 22 over x to the power 14 over 3 minus 8 over x to the power 5. And that's it for this problem. Right. So we're going to check. Okay, so now let's do this. Let's work on the next question. Let's see what we have on the next question. So this is question 9. Sketch below is the graph of f at x is equals to x to the power 3 plus ax squared plus bx. So the x-intercept of f are at 3 and 0 and m. So these are my x-intercept. I can see that. These are my x-intercept. So where m lies on the negative x-axis, we can see that we are given k as the y-intercept and m and n are the turning points. Let's answer the following questions. Show that the equation of f is given by f at x is equal to x to the power 3 minus x squared minus 5x minus 3. So you know what I'm going to do. I know that my coordinates here is 3 and 0. And my coordinates here, let's call this, what can we call this? X of m, or which letter can we use? Let's use k and 0. So we know that the y coordinates already, we know the y, which is 0, and we're just going to let this one to be k. So now this guy, remember, if your x-intercept is also your turning point, to find the equation of the graph, if the x-intercept is also the turning point, the graph that we use, the equation that we use is going to be, let's not say f. So to answer this 9.1, this is how we're going to do the 9.1. So 9.1, we're going to say y is equal to, the formula will be a into x minus x1, close the bracket, squared. Why is it squared? Because the x-intercept is also the turning point. Remember, the cubic function has 3 x-intercepts. So now then we're going to say x minus x2. Let's substitute. Look at the given equation. We know that this is ax to the power 3. We know the value of a, it's already given as 1. So I'm just going to substitute that and say y is equals to 1 into, right, let's talk about the value of k. We know that k is negative. Let's fix that. The value of k is negative because they also told us that m lies on the negative x-axis. So the value of k is negative. This will be x minus into minus k, and this is squared into x minus x2. So this is my x1, this is my x2, y2, and this is my x1, y1. So this will be x minus 3, close the bracket. Therefore, y is equals to x plus k squared into x minus 3. I hope you guys understand what we did there. Right, I hope you guys understand what we did then. So now what I'm going to do here, is to substitute any point on that graph. I can substitute my y-intercept, which is this one. I can sub in, okay, I can sub in k, which is 0 and minus 3, and this is my x. Let me indicate that, which one is my x, this is my x, this is my y. I always like to indicate which one is x, which one is y, so that I don't make mistakes. Let's substitute on that equation. Let's see what we get. So where there's y, I put minus 3. It's equals to where there's x, I'm going to put 0 plus k squared into 0 minus 3. So now this gives me minus 3 is equals to k squared into negative 3. Let's divide both sides by that negative 3 to make k subject of the formula. K squared is equals to 1. Let's square both sides. When you square both sides, what is the value of k? K is plus or minus 1. The square root of any number is plus or minus. Therefore, we know that k is in quadrant, it's in the negative x-axis. That will make the value of k to be minus 1. So now that you have the value of k, you just have to go back on that equation and substitute in the value of k. So what I'm trying to say, we put back the value of k on that equation. So let's do it like this. Remember we said y is equals to x plus k, and this is squared into x minus 3. So we know what is k, so this will be y is equals to, right, there's something that we need to fix. We know that if this is k, it's minus 1, so the k comes to the other side to be positive, so k plus 1 is 0, so it's a factor. So this tells us that this bracket is k plus 1, so this will be k plus 1 squared into x minus 1. So I'm sorry guys, what I'm trying to do, I just substituted this here, so it's minus into minus 1, because the aim was to first find the x coordinate of k, which is minus 1, but when we put it there, it's minus into minus. That's why it's going to be x plus 1. Is everybody happy about that? So if that's the case, then let's continue working. Okay, so now what I'm going to do now, I'm going to say for this guy here, I need to say y is equals to expand the bracket x plus 1 into x plus 1, then this is x minus 1. So let's use the FOIL method to find this, the first one. So this will be x times x is x squared, and then we have x times 1 is x, x times 1 is x, which will give us plus 2x plus 1. So this guy, we need to still multiply that by x minus 1. Right, so this will be y is equals to, we multiply everything inside the bracket by x first, which will give us x squared plus 2x squared plus x. Then now we multiply everything by minus 1, because we started with this x to multiply everything inside that trinomial by x. Then we multiply everything by minus 1. This will give us minus x squared minus 2x and minus 1. Let's add the like terms. This will be okay, let's fix this first. It's x times x squared, which is x to the power 3, so this will be to the power 3. Let's group the like terms. I have x squared plus, guys, what's going on here? Please just give me a second. Okay, let's continue. We said that this is x squared plus 2x, so we first multiplied everything by the bracket. I'm just gonna erase this. Let's rewrite this. Can you see, guys? It's normal to make mistakes. You just have to go through your solution again, just to make sure that everything is good. So what do we have here? This will be y is equals to x squared times x is x to the power 3, and then x squared times 2x is give us positive 2x squared. Then x times 1 is just x. Then multiply everything by negative, so this will be negative x squared minus 2x minus 1. So the like terms here is minus 2x and x squared, so this will give me y is equals to, okay, let's not put the brackets this time. So this will be y is equal to x to the power 3. Then I need to say 2x squared minus x squared. What is that equals to? So when I say 2x squared minus x squared, this gives me, I have 2x squared minus x squared. I'm not sure, guys, there's something here because I'm trying to make this to make sense, but it's not working. So now I see my mistake. I'm very sorry, guys. I'm very, very sorry. I don't think this thing of making, okay, let's go back and fix that mistake. So this tells us that we are wasting time, né? I'm very sorry. I know that even on your side you are not happy about the mistakes that you are currently making, but will improve as times goes. So this tells you that you are noting down the mistakes and make sure that you don't repeat the same mistake. So this is minus 3. So this will be y is equals to 2x squared. You see, another mistake. X squared plus 2x plus 1. Then we multiply everything by the x minus 3. Right, so y is equals to x times x squared, it's x to the power 3, then plus 2x squared, because we are multiplying everything inside the bracket by x, then plus x. Then now let's multiply by minus 3. This will give us everything that side by minus 3. What do we get when we multiply everything by minus 3? So we said this is x squared plus 2x plus 1. We multiply this by x minus 3. So now this will give us negative what? 3x squared. Ne? Negative 3x squared. Then we're going to have negative 6x, then negative 3. Let's look at the like terms. Let's look and see if we have any like terms. Do we have the like terms? Yes. These two guys, it's 2x squared minus 3x squared. I think you can see that now. I'm trying to move slow now so that we don't repeat the mistake. So this will be y is equals to x to the power 3. So 2x squared and minus 3x squared will give us negative x squared. X minus 6, it's minus 5x. Then I have minus 3. So each and every time you make mistakes, guys, please don't get angry at yourself, né? But just go back and see, because now when I was solving this, I was looking at if I'm getting that. Then when I see that no, I'm not getting what they are looking for, this tells me that I have made a mistake somewhere. Then I need to fix that mistake. Okay, So let's look at what we have on the next question. They want us to calculate the value of n, the coordinates of n. Let's look at what is the coordinates of n. This is my n here, which is my turning point. How do we find the turning point? We find the derivative, equate that derivative to 0 and solve for x. Then you're going to get your coordinates of the TP. So let's quickly work on that, ladies and gents. So this will be my f at x. It's equals to x to the power 3 minus x squared minus 5x minus 3. So if I find the derivative of this, I need to equate the derivative to 0, which is 3x squared minus 2x minus 5, equate that to 0. So after equating to 0, we can factorize this. This is 0. I'm going to have 3x this side. Then, can we... Okay, 3x this side, then I'm going to have x this side. The factors of 5 is just 5 and 1. So it's 5 and 1. Let me teach you how to choose where is the 5 going and where is the 1 going next. Or I'll give you another way to factorize, don't worry. So now if I put the 1 this side, okay, let's start with 5. Let's say I put 5. What is 3 times 5? It's 15, ne? 3 times 5 is 15. Is 15 close to 2? Nope, that won't work. So then the 5 will never go that side. You see? Simple. Let me put 1 this side. What is 3 times 1? Is 3. Is 3 close to 2? Yes. Then the 1 will go that side. The 5 goes this side. So now remember we need to get what? Remember we need to get, so this will be 3x, which should be what? The 3x should be positive, so that when we minus that 5x, we get minus 2x. So if you solve for x, 3x is equals to 5, or x is equals to minus 1. Therefore, this side x is equals to 5 over 3. Okay, so now we know that the x is equal to minus 1 is the coordinate of that turning point. Already we know this one is the coordinate of that m. So this is for m and this will be for n. So now we have the n, we need to find the corresponding y value. How do we find the corresponding y value? We need to find f at 5 over 3, which will be, on the original equation, it's x 5 over 3, this is to the power 3, minus, where there's x, I put 5 over 3, squared, minus 5 into 5 over 3, minus 3. So when you punch this on the calculator, what do you get? Already I have this as 5 over 3. What is the corresponding value of n? Let me quickly put this on the calculator. Okay, so when I put this on the calculator, I get my answer as this is negative, which makes sense, negative 256 over 27. You know that when you are in an exam and you write a question, you answer a question and you get this kind of values, you feel like whatever that you are doing is wrong. Then you start to panic. No, just go back, verify your steps, then you'll see that everything is good. Nah? Okay. So now they are asking for which values of x will f at x be less than 0. We're going to continue and work on that. Okay, so let's work on the next question. They are asking for which values of x will f at x less than 0. So I'm going to explain what they need from you. So they are asking, I'm sorry guys, they are asking where is this the graph of f at x below the x-axis. This means that where is this graph below x-axis? Okay, let's quickly work on that. I'm just going to highlight where the graph is below the x-axis. Look at this. This point, the graph is below, and the graph is still below the x-axis all up until that point. So you know what you know how you can answer, how you can write your answer. This is what you can say. You can say that x must be, we know that x must be less than 3, and maybe you can give them from this point going that side to this point going that side. You can say x must be less than 3 and x must be greater than that x value we set. What is k? Let's quickly go and remind ourselves what was the value of k. The value of k was -1. So the x coordinates here, it's -1 and 0. Or x must be greater than -1. You can give them like that, or you can give them from this point going in that direction. So, or this is, please make sure that you write both of these answers. So x must be less than 3 and greater than -1, or x must be, it takes from this point going in that side. X must be less than -1. So, or x must be less than -1. And that's it for this question. This is how you answer your question. Right. So, for which values of x is the graph of x be concave up? For where is this graph concave up? Remember the concavity. To find the point of the concavity, if we say concave up, your second derivative must be greater than 0. This is for concave up. If they say concave down, your second derivative must be less than 0. So let's quickly work on this one. For concave up, what is there? I'm just gonna go and remind myself of what was the first derivative. So the first derivative was x squared minus f at x, or f squared, 3x squared minus 2x minus 5. So this will be f prime. We know that f prime of x was equals to, what was this? 3x squared minus 2x minus 5. So this is what we have. Then we need to find the second derivative. Let's derive this. The second derivative must be what? Must be greater than 0. So if we derive this, will be 6x minus 2. This guy must be greater than 0. This is an inequality. Let's solve the inequality. 6x minus 2 must be greater than 0. Therefore 6x, the 2 comes this side to be positive. Divide both sides by that 6. Divide both sides by 6. Therefore, x must be greater than 1 over 3. X must be greater than 1 over 3. Then this equation will be concave up. Right. So, hey, look at this. I thought we are done with 9.4. Then finally, we're going to do the last question. But when I look at this, 6 marks tells us that there's too much work that needs to be done. So I'm just going to try and squeeze this problem right here on the space that we have. This is 9.4. Determine the maximum vertical distance. So vertical is very important. Maximum means you're going to find the f prime. You're going to find the derivative. I'm going to explain how this works. Let's not say the derivative of x, but we need to derive. When we see the maximum, we need to derive. But first thing first, look at this. They want us to find the vertical distance between the graph of f and f at x in the interval. We are coming back to the interval. We'll talk about this. For now, let's talk about the vertical distance. So now, if they say the vertical distance between the graph of f and f prime, so you know what I'm going to do? I'll assume that f is on top because they started writing f. So if this is a point that is on f, there is going to be the top one, and then this is a point that will be on f prime, which is going to be the bottom point. Remember, we focus on the y, so this is for f, this is for f prime, and they want us to find the vertical distance. So since they're talking about the vertical distance, our d for distance will be the graph that is on top, which is f at x. So I'm just going to write the equation of f at x, which is x squared minus x squared, x to the power 3 minus x squared minus 5x minus 3. Then we minus the one that is on bottom, and the one that is on bottom is the derivative. Remember, the derivative was 3x squared minus 2x minus 5. So I'm going to minus my derivative, which is 3x squared. I'm just gonna remove this here. Okay, we're going to minus 3x squared into minus 2x minus 5. Close the bracket. So what is this? What is the distance? The distance is x to the power 3 minus x squared minus 5x minus 3. Multiply out the bracket with the negative of minus 3x squared plus 2x plus 5. Do we have the like terms? Let's quickly check on that. Do we have the like terms? Yes. The minus x squared and the minus 3x squared will give us minus 4x squared. And then the minus 5x and the positive 2x will give us the minus 3x. And then we have the minus 3 that we need to add with 5, which will give us positive 2. Let's quickly write the final distance. So the distance is equals to x to the power 3 minus x squared, then minus 5x and plus 2x. We set this. Hey, we are making another mistake. Let's quickly fix that now. So it's minus x squared and minus 3x. We said this will be minus 4x squared, then minus 5x and positive 2x. That gives us negative 3x. Then we have minus 3 plus 5, which gives us positive 2. So this is my distance. So once you get the vertical distance, to find the maximum, you find the derivative of that distance and solve for x. So we need to find we need to derive. So we need to derive, I'm just going to call this d prime at x, because we need to derive in terms of x. The distance in terms of x will be 3x squared minus 8x minus 3. That's the derivative. Then you take your derivative, you equate it to 0. When you see the weight maximum, just know that find the derivative, equate that derivative to 0. So now what we're going to do is that we're going to factorize this. So I'm going to factorize this. This is 3x, then the other side is x. Okay, then this is 3x, I have the other side as x, and then the factors of 3 is just 3 and 1. But now I need to put, remember it's 3 and 1. So if I put the 1 this side, this will be 3 times 1, which is 3. 3 is not close to 8. So I need to consider putting the 3 this side, because 3 times 3 will give me 6, and 6 is close to 8. So the 3 will go to the other side. So if you are happy with that, let's continue working on this one. This one will be positive 1. Then now what happens is that we need to choose which one will be positive, which one will be negative. So now this is, what was this? This was minus 3. So this tells me that since this is negative, 1 should be positive, 1 should be negative. So now 3 times 3, guys, 3 times 3 is 9. So this tells us that we need to put the 9 to be negative so that when we add that 1 we get minus 8x. So if we have it like this, please you can pause the lesson and try to factorize this using your own method. So x is equal to 3, or the value of x is equal to negative 1 over 3. Okay, everything is good now. So now that we have the value of x, we need to find the maximum vertical distance. Now we can use this interval. The set x must be less than 0 and greater than minus 1. So we can see that this 3 is not in that interval. The one that we need to use is this one, minus 3 minus 1 over 3. So if you put that on the calculator, the minus 1 over 3, you'll see that is between 0 and minus 1 over 3. So that's what we're going to use. To find the maximum distance, this is what you're going to do. You're going to substitute that value in the original equation of one of these two equations. So I'm just going to choose my f at x now. So the maximum distance, I'll choose f at x. So this will be f at minus 1 over 3. It's equals to, so on this f at x, where there's x, I'll put negative 1 over 3. So this is to the power 3 minus 1 over 3. This is squared minus 5 into minus 1 over 3 minus 3. Did we do it right? No, we did not do it right, because remember, this is the maximum distance. We can't use f at x, but the formula of the maximum distance. This is not making sense, but when we substitute, because now we are looking for what? We are looking for the maximum distance, so we need to substitute this using that equation, not the f at x, but we know what is d. So to find the maximum distance on that equation, we substitute that, which will be minus 1 over 3 to the power 3 minus 4 into minus 1 over 3 squared minus 3 into minus 1 over 3 plus 2. You just have to punch that on the calculator to get your maximum distance. So what I got on my side, let me quickly put this, minus into minus 1 over 3 into to the power 3 minus 4 into minus 1 over 3 squared minus 3 into minus 1 over 3 plus 2. So this gives me 68 over 27, but when I write it in decimal form is 2.52 units. So that's the maximum distance. I'm so happy that we finally doing the final question of the paper, because it's been a very long 3 hours. Now we are about to do this paper for 4 hours, but remember, in an exam you only have 3 hours. So on my side I'm explaining, so I can't complete this in 3 hours. So let's try to analyze what is going on this question, what we are given. So this is probability, and on the probability they say that the flags from 4 African countries, so we have 4 African countries and 3 European countries, were displayed in a row during what? 2021 Olympics. Determine the total number of possible ways in which all the 7 flags from these countries could be displayed. All the 7 flags. So this one, I think, is an easy one, because we are looking for what? 7 factorial. Okay, so this is just 7 factorial. Please don't get confused on this one. How can this be displaced? If you still remember that, to answer this one, let us not stress about this one. You just take that 7 and you say factorial, you punch that on the calculator. So 7 factorial is equals to, this gives us 5040. Right, the next question, maybe this is where we're going to do the work. Calculate the probability that the flags from the African countries were displaced next to each other. Let me try to explain what is going on here. Né? So, first thing first that we're going to discuss on this one, the first thing that we need to put our focus on is to identify the arranging the group. So now, look at this. Remember, we have 4 African countries. So, we're going to have the 4 factorial. So, this 4 factorial is the one that we're going to use to arrange what? The groups. Oh, now I have so much energy because we are doing the last question. So, we're going to use this to arrange what? The groups, because there are 4 African countries. Okay, so from there we treat the 4 African as one block. I hope you guys understand. This 4 African here, the 4 African countries, we're going to treat them as one block. Right. So now, why? Because we need to display them next to each other. So we're just going to treat them as one block. So if we treat this as one block, what do we have now? We have one African. We have one African block. And then we still have 3, what? 3 European flags. European flags. So now we have 1 and 3, which gives us what? A total of 4. So I think you guys understand where is the 4 factorial coming from. So these are the arranging group. That's the first factorial. So now let's talk about that arranging inside the block, inside that one block. Né? So inside the African block, the flags can still move around. The flag can still move around. Remember, let's say I have A, B, C, D. These are my flags. The second, maybe we can say this is B, A, D, C. Or you can have D, C, B, A, and so on. So this tells you that these are what? These are the number of ways. Number of ways. So the number of ways, also we have what? We have it as 4 factorial. That's how we can arrange the flags inside the block. So now you can know that to find the probability that the flags from the African countries were displaced next to each other, is going to be, first thing first, this will be 4 factorial multiplied by that 4 factorial. So because you know where is this 4 factorial coming from, we treated African block as one block and the European as 3. So now this other 4 is the number of ways. So when we punch this on the calculator, what do we get? 4 factorial multiplied by 4 factorial. So this is 576. So therefore, to find the probability that we have the African flag AF together is equals to, we need to take that 576 divided by the number of ways that all the 7 flags from these countries could be displaced. So we're going to divide this by 540, 5040. Then you punch this on the calculator and get your probability. So this is 0.11. And that's it for that question. Okay, so now let's work on the next one. The next question says that, I'm not sure if we'll be, I think we can work it down here. So let's look at what we are given. A and B are 2 independent events. So when we say events are independent, what I need you to remember is that the probability of A and B, it's equals to the probability of the product of these two events. You just have to multiply them. If they say two events are independent, you just, to find the probability of the intersection, you multiply what? You multiply the two probabilities. You'll see when we start working on example, why do you need to know that? Okay, so calculate, or the probability of A is 0.4 and the probability of A or B is 0.88. They want us to find the probability of B, but my question is that what is the formula for the probability of A or B? And I think it's also there on the formula sheet. Do we have the formula sheet here? Yes, let's quickly verify that. Do you have the probability? Do they give you the formulas for probability? Yes, they do. Look at this. The probability of A or B, it's equals to the probability of A plus the probability of B minus the intersection. So I'm just gonna write it down, that formula. So this will be the probability of A, we add the probability of B, you minus the intersection. The probability of A times B. The probability of A and B. That's what the formula is saying. Let's substitute. We know what is the probability of A or B. It's 0.8. Why don't we leave this space for the last question? But it's fine. Let's work. So this will be 0.88. It's equal to the probability of A. Also, we know that the probability of A is 0.4. So I'm just going to substitute this as 0.4. And we are looking for the probability of B. But now, what is the probability of A and B? Remember, they said that this is an independent event. So the probability of A and B is just the probability of A multiplied by the probability of B, which is 0.4B. So where there's this, I can substitute this as 0.4 times the probability of B. So now we only have the probability of B. We can work this thing out. Right? So now what I'm going to do now, what can we do next? Take the 0.4 to the other side, which gives us 0.88 minus 0.4. It's equals to, this is 1 minus 0.4, because remember we have 1 on front of that. It's 1 minus 0.4, which is 0.6. So this will be 0.6, the probability of B, and this gives us 0.48. Equate this to that 0.6. Let's divide both sides by 0.6. I think that was easy, né? Therefore, what is the probability of B? What do you get on your calculator? So when I put this on the calculator, I get my answer as 0.8. Right, I hope you are happy about that. Now, we close to completing this question. Please just stay more or less 10 minutes, né? And we'll be done with the problem. Okay, there are 20 passengers on board on an aeroplane. Passengers have a choice to choose between meat sandwich, okay, all right, so now we said that passengers have a choice between meat sandwich or a cheese sandwich, but more passengers will choose a meat sandwich. Please keep that in mind. Let's quickly highlight that part because it's very important. They said that but more passengers will choose a meat sandwich. So I'm just gonna highlight that. Okay, so now they say there are only 120 sandwiches available to choose from. The probability that the first passenger choose a meat sandwich and the second passenger choose a cheese one, it's 18 over 5. Calculate the probability that the first passenger will choose a cheese sandwich. You know what I'm going to do? Let's calculate this using a tree method, a tree diagram method. Né? So on the tree diagram method, we need to understand the probability that the first person choose a meat or a cheese. Né? Let's write this down. So this will be first passenger right, and we're going to have the second passenger. Let's do this on the tree diagram. So it's either the first one will take meat or, okay, let me, guys, this is injury time. This is the last question. This is the last question. Eh? So this is, it's either the first one will choose meat or cheese. Then the second passenger, it's either they will choose meat or cheese. This one, it's either they will choose meat or cheese. So it's like saying, if the first one take meat, what is the probability of the second one getting meat or cheese? If the first one choose cheese, what is the probability of the second one taking meat or cheese? Let's work on that. So now, what we know is that there are 120 passengers. So what will be the probability of that the first one choose cheese? We don't know. We're just going to let that to be x over 120. Right. So now, remember that this is done without replacement because they said that they are only 120 sandwiches. So you can't just go back and repeat. Everyone has to get a sandwich. So since there are only 120, this tells you that if the first person took a meat sandwich, this tells us that the second one, the probability of the second one will be that 120. We minus that x, and this is over 20. So now we're only interested in what? We're only interested in the probability that the first passenger will choose a cheese sandwich. The first passenger will choose a cheese sandwich. But now this becomes more complicated because I'm given the probability that the probability that the first passenger choose meat and the second passenger choose cheese. So I'm going to go like this because I need to use that probability. I need to use this. So I'll go like this. The first passenger choose meat sandwich is going to be this part. And then the second passenger choose a cheese one is going to be this part because this is for the second one. Remember? So what will be the probability that the second one choose what? The second one choose the cheese one. Remember that if the first one already take meat, the second one, the probability of the second one, it's 120. We minus what? We minus x over the total number of the sandwiches that are left. This guy already took one. Okay? So this tells you that we no longer have 120, but we have 119. This is without replacement. And they're saying that the probability of these two events, we know that we multiply them, they give us, they said it's 18 over what? 18 over 85. So let's write that down. We know that the probability that the first one choose the meat and the second one, I'm not sure how I can write this, the second one choose cheese, is given as what? 18 over 85. But we know that the probability, we just multiply those two, which is x over 120. We multiply that by 120 minus x over 119 and equate this to 118 over 85. We just have to work on that problem and find the answer. Okay, so now what we're going to do, let's quickly multiply everything on top by x there. This will give me 120x, then minus x squared. Then I know that I have the 120 and this, so I'm going to say 120 multiply that 120 by what? By 119. What do you get? So this gives us 120 multiplied by 119, which is 14,280, and this is equated to 18 over 85. Okay, so now I hope we are doing this right now. Let's cross multiply. I just hope that what we are doing here is right. Let's cross multiply. So we're going to take the 85 multiply the 120x minus x squared, equate this to, we take the 18, we need to multiply the 14,280. Right, so now I'm just going to divide both sides by 85, divide both sides by 85. So now I have 120x minus x squared, it equals to, so what is 18 times 14,280, and that divide by 85, this gives us 3,024. Okay, so when I have it like this, the 3,024, we can rewrite this as negative x squared minus 120x, then minus 3,024, this is equal to 0. Then if we divide everything by negative, we have x squared minus plus 120x plus 3,024 is equal to 0. So let's factorize this. Guys, this is a very big number. I don't know how to factorize this, but I'm just gonna use the quadratic equation. I'm just gonna put this on my quadratic equation. I'm going to teach you how to factorize this. Minus b plus 1. Hey, why are we going so far while we have the quadratic equation here on the formula sheet? I guess this is our lucky day. Look at this. I'm just gonna substitute. I know that the value of a there is 1, the value of b it's 120, and the value of c is 3,024. So x will be minus, where there's b, I need to put 120 plus or minus the root of b squared. Where there's b, we need to put what? 120 squared minus 4 into a and into c. Divide everything by 2 into 1. So look at this. When you punch this on the calculator, I get x is equals to, okay, let me quickly put this on the calculator. Okay, so this gives me 85, or x is equals to x is equals to 36. Right. So now look at this. If x is 85, this tells us that our factor is x minus 85, and if x is 36, our other factor is x minus 36. So please, you see this, don't put it on the calculator, on your answer sheet, because there's a mark for factors. Most of the time, sometimes they might give you the mark for the factors, but if there's no mark for the factors, then use the equation. So x is equal to 85 or x is equal to 36. So the question said, find the probability that the first passenger will choose a cheese sandwich. So now this one, we know that if they say the first passenger will choose a cheese, remember that the first passenger is this times that, ne? But if you go back to the statement that say, but more passengers will choose meat sandwich. More passengers will choose meat sandwich. So this tells us that this x here is the probability of those who choose meat, and this one, this 36, because it's legs, is the probability of those who choose cheese. So can you see, not the probability, the number of the learners that choose cheese, passengers. I always like to work with learners, that's why I'm saying learners. They said, but more passengers will choose a meat sandwich. So we look at this. So x is 85. This tells us that 85 passengers, they choose meat, and 36, they choose cheese. So to find the probability that the first person take cheese, it's equals to, we take the number of learners that take cheese divided by the total number of the passengers, which is 36 over 120. Put that on the calculator, I get 3 over 10. So 3 over 10, you can also put it as a decimal form. And that's it for this problem. This was the last problem of this question paper. I hope you guys enjoyed the lesson, even though we made a lot of mistakes, but luckily we were able to fix our mistake, né? And that's it. This is how you collect all the marks. I know that we're going to make even mistake when we are in an exam, but please, let's try to make less mistakes. Please make sure that you relax when you write your exam. And that's it for this lesson. This is where we're going to stop the lesson. Please make sure that when you work through this lesson, try to go step by step. Thank you guys for watching the lesson. If you enjoyed the lesson and this is your first time watching the lesson, our lesson, make sure that you hit the subscription button and join the family. We'll make sure that you feel at home. So when you subscribe, you'll be able to see our next lesson. So on our next lesson, we're going to discuss paper 2. On the next lesson, we'll do the sub exam for paper 2.